Now, another one's that I've watched the first couple of episodes. Is that for Pantheon or is it for the other one we just talking about? Oh, Expense. Yeah, yeah. I did. I kind of like. There's a point in Expense where I just wanted to say, "Can I kill her? Can I please take somebody? Please take a gun and kill her because I just can't stand this woman. Please kill her. Somebody, please, please." Yeah, no, you're so this is he's just saying he's watched the first couple of episodes Expense, and I'm like, yeah, please, somebody just put her out of misery. She's like, it's like a friggin' albatross around your neck, around the age of mariner. And like, sometimes you just gotta take that dude and you just gotta put him into the ocean and carry on sailing. I'm like, yeah. But I mean, that's something like I think a lot of time when they do shows and stories, they drag it out when you know in reality, if it was you just walk away and never look back. I've been in that case. I've done that myself, where it's gotten to a point where I was like, "Yeah, I'm just gonna walk away,"
Right.
and that's why, and like that's why I get annoyed when people just keep going back to the vomit, you know, and I just go, just walk away, man, you know, you don't deserve the misery, and that's why Expense sort of like it was hard watching. I think it must have been about episode or season 4 of somewhere about after 3, somewhere a situation happens, and I'm like, just shoot her, please. Somebody just put her out the airlock.
I'm trying to think what character you're talking about.
Yeah, but it is a good story, and I think those guys really they took something a bit, the gender thing, like all that mixing. I think in the sense that they took it the right way for that world, but I
Right.
think if you really think about it, people are jealous, you know, and it showed jealousy in there. But they're like people sometimes will get jealous and they'll do silly stuff and they'll act certain ways, and they don't want to share, right? Yeah,
Right, right. I get what you mean with the
yeah,
not to run the show. Yeah, no, I
yeah.
understand.
So yeah,
Yeah, I just thought like the first three seasons are just so well like paced. Like
yeah,
it's just you. There was never an episode where you like it finished and you were like, oh, I don't want to watch the next one. Like it was
yeah,
immediately like hooked into the next episode. So you're just like, it was just so binge worthy. When it
yeah,
sort of the first after the first three seasons, it kind of changes gears a little bit, and it's a different show really. It sort
yeah.
of
It felt like
turns
they
into
were
kind of
dragging
the
it out,
yeah
and I'm like, because like something like that, you got to plan really in advance. If you're gonna do 5 years, you got to do 5 years, right? You got to do five
yeah
seasons. That's why, like, when you look at Babylon 5, or no, um, Sons of Anarchy, how it was all really good all the way through. My mum, who at that time was 60, watched the whole show even before I did.
yeah. My
Right?
mom watched that show too.
You
That's
know,
so weird.
and
That's my mom
it's
loved
like
that show.
yeah, it's like you look at the mum and she's like behaving like a mum in there, right? Like looking after her
Right.
son against all things. And so I could understand what my mum was doing because she's been like with that with me all my life, protecting me, taking care of me. Whenever I need it, she's there. So I could see why mum would love that show because of what's that guy's name, the lead character?
What is that? That is that Charlie Hunnam or whatever his name is. Is that his
Yeah,
name? The young
Hunan.
guy.
Hunan. Yeah, yeah.
Hunnam.
So yeah, Charlie's character, right? So his mum
Hunnam.
behaves like a
Hunnam.
friggin'
Yeah.
mum. And when they wrote
Yeah.
that story, like he said, like right at the start, this is supposed to be a 5-year thing, right? Or whatever it was. He said, this is, and that's what he signed because he had the story. Was it like, what was like Macbeth, wasn't it? The idea was behind it was Macbeth, Shakespeare's
I
Macbeth or
don't
something.
know. I missed
Um,
the boat on Sons of Anarchy. Yeah.
yeah, I mean, I came into it
I
years
never got
later.
into it. Yeah.
Must have been about 2 years later when, so once it was over, I think I came into it. So
Right.
let me find out what the deal was there. Sons of Anarchy, and Charlie's name was, and it was a good show. That's the thing. Like it was really, really well planned out. And Kurt Sutter is he's married to Katie Segal, right? And so, you think that it's 92 episodes, man. So how many
Yeah. It
seasons
went
was
for a
there?
while. Yeah.
7 seasons. Sorry, my bad. I thought it was 5. 7 seasons, right? So they had 7-season arc, and let me see what he said. I'm sure he said something about Kurt. What was his last name there? Kurt Suter. Kurt Suter. Kurt Suter on the idea for Sons of Anarchy. So I'm sure you know, he said what it was about. Like, I'm sure somewhere he basically said this was what it was supposed to be, right? How it's going to work, and I can't remember when he said it, but I remember watching, some sort of freaking let me
So
just
there was
see
some
here.
sort of like Shakespearean influence, you're saying?
Yeah, I'm sure it's Macbeth. It was just it was like saying it's 7 years. This is how it's going to be, and this is what we're going to do. And because I remember
Right. Okay.
I remember when I was planning. Yeah, I tried Yellow Jackets. I just couldn't handle one episode, and I just like, this isn't for me. I couldn't handle it. But that was the same for Expanse. Like, I watched 3 episodes or 2 episode Expanse, and I don't like this. And then I came back to it about 2 years later, and then watched the whole thing. And sometimes
Dang,
it's
man,
like
lucky you did. Yeah, I love that show. Yeah, that's
yeah. Well, it's like watching a motorcycle gang, right? I mean, what's that got to do with me? And then you realize that there's so much drama, there's so much plots and twists, and you got guys behaving like guys, right? And then you've also got some really cool scenes in there where they try to help people and where they actually back up people that have nothing to do with them, right? But this is what guys do sometimes. And I think a lot of people don't realize that, like, there's, this is the masculinity that really is what we need in the world. How do you say that, man? I'm going to butcher that word.
I'm not sure.
Masculinity, yeah.
Masculinity, gotcha.
It's not always bad, and that's the thing about it. Like, all we hear about is the negative stuff, like,
Yeah, I mean, with my philosophy on like diversity and things like that, like, if it's a new property, it's hard to like, what would you call it? Like, it's hard to knock it, right? If it's diverse, right? Like, I think of like the perfect example is like Apex Legends. Have you played that game?
No,
Video game probably came out.
Like,
oh, gotcha. Sort of like a battle royale kind of thing that kind of came out not too long ago, but free to play. A pretty good game, but characters were more diverse than the census, and you like you had weird sort of all types of identity of pansexual sort of weird space Swedish people, whatever genderless people, what have you, and it's like it's like, well, okay, that's great, that's the character, but for me it's really it only really becomes a problem if you're sort of replacing the character and then subverting what that character is about. That's really where I mean, even Sam Wilson as Captain America, it's like, okay, if Captain America dies, that makes sense. But
not when he's here.
If you then replace him with like some like I don't know, Bernie Sanders, like communist sort of socialist guy, it's like it doesn't work. You know what I mean? So it's I thought the characters were in Expanse was sort of interesting,
That's what I liked. I think I liked about it because it pushed the needle. It showed things would work that way in that universe, and it was good and it really worked. Now, but in reality, like I said, jealousy. Humans are jealous creatures, and we're fickle and we'll fight and we'll argue and we want to own. I mean, not own. We want to have that special someone, and that's why, like, actually, what is that called? Like, open relationships don't work for that one reason, right? Because it doesn't work, man. Like reality doesn't work. You can say, well, I'll have one wife, two wives, three wives. It doesn't work because it just doesn't work, because we are human, and by nature, we're supposed to have one person and and go for the multiply with that one person. Doesn't matter if it's male or female, right? Same gender. Doesn't mean that, right? What it just means that it's just we have connection, right, to that one person.
Right.
And when there's more people, you get stretched out. And when you get stretched out, people want your time. And in reality, when that happens, then someone's going to lose out and someone's going to lose it, and that's where it gets really bad. And whenever people go, oh yeah, it works. No, if you really think about it, it doesn't work, right? The statistics don't show it working. But what I love about, if you watch Anarchy, right? If you watch Sons of Anarchy, the great thing about it, there is a guy in there, right, who is, would you class gay or like trans? And one of the guys falls in love with that guy, right? And so then they try to help that guy, and it's so natural. It is so freaking written well. It's so natural because that's what would happen in that situation, right? And I've seen that happen in that situation in real life, and that is done so well because it's a new IP. It was written that way from the start. It wasn't later on they tried to change it. It was written that way. There's a character growth. You saw it happen, and over time they had a relationship, and they ended up that way because they built that whole timeline thing. And I think that's why I'm just tired of, like, I don't even like talking about race swapping, anything like that, because it's just boring. So myself, I'm creating characters all the time. So I'm like, okay, I'll create, the way I think that character works in this book, or that character works in that situation there. And that's more fun to me than like just bitching and moaning anymore about what Marvel or DC is doing. Because why am I advertising Marvel and DC, right?
Right.
I'm just gonna like talk about stuff that I like. So if I'm like,
I think you posted that article about that guy. I think he was a DC sort of executive, and he was like, yeah, we notice our sales go up when people get angrier.
Yeah.
And it's like,
and that
man,
really works.
like you're just saying sort of this the silent part out loud, It's just like, well, I mean, you really want to antagonize your audience? Does that seem like a sort of expedient kind of a strategy? I don't know. It was bizarre.
It's short-term goals. But here's the thing. Right? Did you see the Ultimate Spider-Man?
Yeah, I've heard that it's coming back out.
Printing, third printing, fourth printing. What is it on? Like it's all sold out. Every single issue is on sold out. And the weird thing is, issue one, like the first printing, the A whatever it is, and it's like it's being sold right now for $100, and somebody will buy it, right? Because somebody missed out. But me, I can give or take. Like, right, I'm not that. For me, it's a bit too late. After 10 years of aggravating people, we've walked away. I mean, I've walked away. So, and I'm the guy who's surrounded by comics, right? And Marvel used to be my favorite thing for decades. And then, then it was like DC, and it was a balance between both of them. And, and now I'm completely out, even when I was like, oh, that sounds like a good book. Okay, maybe. Nah, I'm out. Anyway, doesn't matter. I can give it a take.
It's something. Well, it's it's an old property, but it's novel, right? Like it's something sort of, it's new-ish, It's at least. And I don't know if I'm not sure if I talked to you about this or someone else, but I did I've been sort of researching comic book sales figures recently to sort of see if there's a decline, or I'm really interested to see kind of where the industry is and where it should be, really, and what's affecting sort of the numbers. And the obvious sort of low hanging fruit, the comparison is manga versus
I'll bring up something
manga versus comics, right?
I posted that today about that. Did you see that?
No, I haven't been on Facebook today. I had a pretty busy day. But just to finish my point, if you look at the top selling manga books in North America. So this isn't Japan. Japan is another world, you know, where
Yeah.
it's another sort of market, you know, completely different culture, whatever you. But if you look at North America, the top selling like manga books versus comic books, like the characters, I think all the characters for manga, bar maybe One Piece, are less than 10 years old. They all came out in like the teens. On the flip side with Marvel, DC, what have you, like I think the youngest character was maybe Spawn, which was what, like the early 90s, you know.
Yeah.
The one before that was like the 60s, I think, or the 70s. So that, you know, at what point do you just go, well, these are tired properties and there's no more tread in the tires? You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm starting to feel like if I was like the executive at Marvel, I'd just be like, look, I'm just gonna get like the best writers, the best artists, and I'm just gonna go, look, you have 5 years to wrap this up, and then we're ending this universe and we're just starting afresh with brand new characters.
Well,
maybe we keep Spider-Man, maybe.
They tried that and they did it wrong. So in 2014, 2015, when I had my store, right? So they tried to turn all the male characters into like a female version of all the male characters and sort of sideline the male characters.
That's not the same, man. Like I'm talking like no girl
Oh,
Green
yeah.
Lantern. Like no, we don't do Green Lantern's finished. You know what I mean? We're gonna find the
no, but that's what I mean. So
version
what they were trying to do this is for Marvel, right? So what they were trying to do is like, and you know, they started, some worked, right? Some characters worked, but what didn't work for them was calling it by the same name. So Hawkeye was female Hawkeye, right? Wolverine was female Wolverine, but still called Wolverine and Hawkeye. And so that's where they, instead of sticking with X-23, is now taking over, you know, because Wolverine is dead, right? Because he died. And
I think he's back, but
but then he's back as Old Man Logan, right? And so on. But then you called Hawkeye's, you know, prodigy Hawkeye. It doesn't work that way. You could have called it something else, you know, Quail, right? You know, the stuff you pull out, you know, is it Quail? Like the arrow, you know? That holds you.
Right, I get what you mean, but that's not what I mean. I would mean like just nuke the whole. Yeah. We like. I would look at Manga's model and go, look, it doesn't need to. You don't need to have a shared universe. I don't know why these are all shared. You know, like it's sort of a weird kind of dynamic. Like just have 10 books that are completely different, that are really good stories, and have the best writers, the best artists working on them, and sign them to like 4-year contracts. You know what I mean?
Well, it's
5-year contract longer.
The thing here is it takes about 5 years to build something, right? To build a name recognition brand. Now, if you look at Miles Morales took off last year, right? I mean, not last year, when they put him into a, the animated series, I mean, movie, right? If he wasn't in the animated movie, Miles Morales wouldn't be a big deal, because that was a good movie, right? I saw it with my sister and her family, and the boys loved it, and everybody loved it because it's so well done. And so I think you can't compare the two, and this is where I think like this page explains it, like showcases exactly why you can't compare the two, right? So yeah, Miles is my son's Spider-Man, he says, right? Because he's growing into it. He doesn't know Peter Parker unless you tell your son Peter Parker. And Justin, is that because you took him to the movie? Because I'm sure he didn't read the comic book unless you let him.
He was. I mean, it's not like it's not like they brought him in, like he was just a nobody and then made a movie. He was Ultimate Spider-Man, right? Like, or he was in that universe. So he was a fairly popular character. He just, That, you know, you like, but like you said, he's had this massive push with the movies, and he had a.
Right.
I mean, this is another point, but Marvel put out a Miles Morales comic book, like Scholastic catalogs in the US. I'm pretty sure, I could be wrong, but I'm pretty sure it outsold like all of like Marvel's other like trade paperback titles combined. Like,
well, the thing here is like it's something new, right? And it's something new done right. It felt like it was done right, but the thing here is they didn't just make him black, right? They half casted him, right? Which meant that now you had the Latino, right? The Latin community, and you also had the black community, and that's a large community of reader base for young kids, right? Boys, not girls. Boys read comics like 70-30 to like, especially Western comics, to girls. So you got the boys in, and you got the boys young. So when they came in, the young ones coming in, next thing you know, you're dropping a damn movie, right? Cartoon movie at the movies, 3D, Flash, look great. You got the boys hooked, and that's what that's what got us hooked at our the young age. So if you can get the kids at the young age, you got them right for life. Now, the problem here is, I said this a couple of years ago, and I got basically got take a hike over it. I said there's a kidult verse in Marvel, and there's an adult verse in Marvel. And what we're going to see is a lot of kidult verses, like kiddizing, whatever, of the comics. And it happened, right?
Yeah.
They dumbed it all down. And it took, I said it something like about 2019 or 2018, I think I said it. So now you've got all those watered down versions of all these characters. And like I said, like I'm always trying to see, because I've been studying freaking, comics for 30 years. Because I'm the kind of guy who looks for ideas and stories and researching. I'm researching communism. I'm researching, fascism. I'm researching, Nazism, because I want to learn. So I'm spending, all the stuff. So I'm also having discussions with people in the comic book shop, and online, and talking to artists and stuff. So if you have enough time, you can see the patterns on where things are going. And so I knew that we were going to head towards like what I called kiddizing, of these things. And sure enough, we've got it. We've got a dumbed down version. We've got like a movie version of it, which isn't what people want. They want what's in the comic books, which Avengers did really well. And then after that, somebody else decided, well, that's enough of that. Let's do something else. And boom, when you saw the end of Endgame, you could feel it. It's slowly sort of going. When they killed, was it Black Widow? That was it. You could tell that these guys really were at the end where they didn't care about the characters. When they didn't give you your, where they didn't give you your Black Widow movie, even though she's been in all these movies and all that thing, and she didn't give a standalone, you kind of feel like, yeah. Anyway, it's just giving too much kudos to them and too much promotion to them. So one of the things I think that's really cool for us as Kiwis is we get to see the world. We get to see what the world offers. We're not stuck in a little country that's like a huge country, right? And all we want to see more of us, But here, because we're small, we're able to look out into the world. And so you see a lot of people like, involved in a lot of different things. We're not just into one thing, and, like if you're like in America, you just like, if you're into anime, right? That's all you're into kind of thing.
Sure.
Or if you're in comics, that's all you're into. But here we're like, okay, you're into comics, you're into manga, you're into cosplay, you play board games, you go and play TCG, trading card games with your friends, because they're also into all different things. And I think that's allowed us to be open to more ideas and open to more art and crafts and, types of music. I mean, like shit, I was listening death metal and Suicidal Tendencies at the same time I was listening to Poison, and Megadeth and Metallica and AC/DC, but when you look at somebody like over, say, Norway, I mean, Nordic countries, right? They were just listed like, it was like hard out into black metal. That was the scene. That was it, kind of
Yeah.
things. Not everybody, but that was their scene. Whereas
One of
here,
the
we're not really seen.
one
I
of the
find that weird.
Scandinavian countries is like weirdly like into comic books. I can't be wrong. Like it's like America, like Japan, America, and then I want to say like Sweden or something like that is like
Yeah.
and per capita sort of the highest sort of buyer of comic books. I don't have the country right, but it's some weird Northern Europe country where they buy like a ridiculous amount of comic books.
Is it Europe, right? Is it France or Belgium?
No, I don't think it's France or Belgium. It's one of like the Northern Europe countries. Like I'll find it later. I mean, yeah, going back to what you're saying about sort of
Hold on for a second. I'll just read Justin's. I just missed a whole bunch of stuff. So let's go. Hold on to the thought because I want to hear what you got to say. So when we were asking him about his thing, I missed this whole bunch of chats he put in there. So Miles is my son's Spider-Man. So I said if it was a movie or if it was comics, and then he goes, no, it was he read the comics, right? So he read the book and loved it. Then it was video games. Then the movie, like. Yeah, I didn't realize the video game had come out before the movie. It's pretty cool. And so, yeah, so Spider-Man 2 was always plays as Miles Morales, right? So you like.
I think Into the Spider-Verse came out, but Spider-Man 2 came out last year. So I think Into the Spider-Verse came out a little while before that. But yeah, he's had a massive. He is an interesting character, and it's funny. I bought this book about comic writing by Brian Michael Bendis, who made Miles Morales, and he basically said he's got like mixed race kids, and he wanted a Spider-Man for them, and it's like I think that's kind of why it works. Like it's he made it for his kids, So he's like carrying the culture, renewing the culture in some way. It's not just some sort of
kids or was adopted kids or something like that.
I'm not sure. He's got like he's got like black kids though, so he was like I want to make like a character.
That doesn't work, right? Because my dad's white and my mom's Indian.
Right.
There's no way you're going to get black kids. You're not going to get me between those two guys, right?
I'm not too sure. Mom. He's got I think it's children adopted. With African American descent. I don't know. I don't know how they came to be, but they're African. They're African American in some way, shape.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but so let me finish off here with Justin. So DC did that with the movie, right? They were doing really mature stuff, then watered it down to try and match Marvel, and I think, and that's what I love about DC. It's hardcore, right? It's dark. It's Batman is dark, and it will always be dark, and you got to allow for that. And if you then try to water it down to match some other company, you're not in your own lane. I think if you stay in your own lane and do what you're good at, that's something I'm teaching myself as well, right? What are my strengths? I'm going to lean into my strengths. Same thing when I see artists come across our my email, right, in HR, and I see it and I go, he would suit this book, but not this book. Right, so I've got so much stories, right, like 10s and 20s, 100, right, because I've been writing for 20 odd years, and now I'm getting the artists to be able to do that, like in the last 2 years. So I can now pick if I see this artist and I go, that works there. Oh, I can see you did a good werewolf. I love your werewolf, so now I'm going to put you on Howler. Right, if you're going to come to work with us, and I'll decide, they can sort out the contracts. But if you're going to come and work for me, you're not going to work for anything else except this book, because I can see your strength, and that's like leaning into your strength. And I think that's what, like, when you start changing from your strength, like they did after Avengers Endgame, they lost the people, right? And so the same thing, like I had a 2-hour meeting. It's like, what are we now? Like. We're still today. So 8 o'clock this morning, because I've been up since like midnight yesterday. So 8 o'clock this morning, actually I was up at 3, and I said, can we have a meeting at 6, because I was still working on a script on Howl, actually, to the artist who's working on Joachim, who's a Swede, who's working on Zoolander, right? I said, can I, and he said, oh, yeah, I'm going to be putting, kids to bed and dinner, and I'll say, okay, how about 8 o'clock? Fine. So I had to stay up till 8, and that's why I'm still up now, because, I got energized, had an energy drink, had a coffee and all that stuff. And so I'm still going, but we had a meeting, and the reason I suggested a couple of things for him, then I saw a dragon, right? And I went, wait, looking at your thing, he's like, I said, what, because we always ask, like, if we're having a meeting with people after the email and all that, and DAs, go, what is it that you want to work on? What's the story type? And he'll go, this, and I go, I see you have done a dragon, right? So we're on Skype, right. And I go, this image, like, you've got all your images, I'm going to share this image, right? And so how about this story that I wasn't going to do now, but I was going to wait for 5 years down the road, but because I can see if I have you work with me, I can get it done now, which then means I got to rush it and do a 2 weeks worth of work, and like a month's worth of work in 2 weeks of rewriting the script to make it work. And I'll do that, but if you're into it. And he said, yeah, it sounds interesting, I'll do that. And I go, cool, because leaning into your strength, because if you start doing stuff, pulling teeth, it's so difficult if you're not enjoying yourself. And I think a lot of these people who are writing,
Justin's got some good insight.
Yeah, I'm about to pop that up. Yeah, so
John Romita Jr. has like a very kind of I'm just looking at the John Romita Jr. comment. He is a very polarizing style.
Do you want to read that out?
Yeah, John Romita Jr. was fantastic at doing smaller kick-ass style books, but I don't think he works well with big earth-shattering stories like World War Hulk, just my opinion. Yeah, no, that's fair. I mean, I like John Romita's stuff. He did like a run in New Avengers, which I was collecting at the time, which I thought was really, really good. But yeah, I just know from hearing other people's opinions that people can't stand his style. It's very sort of, polarizing, like I said. But no, I dig it. It works really, really well in Kick-Ass. I think that is maybe not necessarily that sort of style of book is the future, but we've got to, the mainstream comics has sort of got to get out of this sort of mode where, story is second and character is first. It's just you can't tell a good story that's 80 years long. It just at like 5 issues at a time. It just doesn't work. So, I think that's sort of what manga gets right, is that it's like you got one story, one team, and there's a lot of resources behind it, a lot of marketing, supporting material, what have you.
But here's the thing about that as well. I had that up. Sorry, I'll just put that back up again. I thought because we were looking at it, but I then took it down. So have a look at this, right? This is the latest page from Ultimate's X-Men #1 promo to be continued this month, right? So it's like this is a manga, right? And it's going to be Ultimate X-Men #1 because they're redoing it, right? So how do we bring that back? Oh, what's popular right now? Manga. And everybody can see it for that. That's the thing. They can see it. Everybody, even the manga people, see it as this is just trying to come into our lane, right? Into the lane of all those other amazing people out here doing all this, basically that, right? Superhero manga, which is doing it better than Marvel and DC, and it's about the character, right? I'm terrible with names, but so here's the thing, right? So Marvel has restarted to chase that manga dosh, right? So goodbye American superheroes art style. Hello manga art style, right? Don't blame them though. Can't beat them. Join them. I should say they're tale of old, right? It's the oldest tale in the book.
Right.
Can't beat them. Join them. Become their ally, become their friends, right? And so on. And I've been working on a manga myself, right? I mean, like and that'll be it. That's the only manga I'll ever do because I actually wanted that book as a manga and as a standalone. So it's about 60 to 90 pages. We've done about 30 pages of it. But here's what Shane said, who's a friend of ours, and you can check out his artwork. It's on Art of Adams, Art of Evans. So it's Art and then his surname. I'll put up in the link in the chat soon. So I personally hope not. Manga has too many artists that look exactly the same. Comics need more variety, not less, both in story type and art style. So my thing was here. Mine goes more into like health and stuff, and even though you've got like all this, you still have there's a documentary on about like how terrible it is. But I understand,
Right?
And if you're going to put this out into the world, you're just telling people that you're defeated. You're throwing up your arms. You're throwing up your hands. We're beaten. We're going to join the team that's making it. Instead of going, you know what we're going to do? We're going to go and get some really cool people that you love, and hey, do this. If I was them, this is what I'd go. So because they have money, right? They've got Big Daddy Disney, and DC's got Big Daddy Warner, right? So they have basically got sugar daddies, right? So all they got to do is go, you know what? I'm the head editor, or I'm whatever I am, right? It's Jim Lee over at DC, and whoever is it Quesada now, or is it Tom Vilria?
I think so. Yeah, I think it's Quesada, or at least it was. Yeah.
So if I'm that person, I go, listen, we have the money. Let's put out like who's the top 5 writers you want, you the audience on Twitter, right? Let's do a freaking poll that you like to see work on these books, and we'll take the top 3 and we'll give them those books. Now, this is the X-Men book, right? Now, let's go to Spider-Man. Boom, let's do that. That's how I do it. And who would be the artist on those? And you do that. You pick that and you go, those 3 books. So each month we put out 3 Amazing Spider-Man books, whatever titles, Ultimate, Spectacular, and Amazing, right? ASM. So you got 3. That's all we stick to. No more. No crossovers ever for the next 10 years or 5 years, whatever you're going to do. No crossovers. And so these teams will now only work on these books. That's all they got to do. Each team will have 1 book to work on, right? And that's all they got to do. Because now we're not going to be like sweatshopping this stuff out, and which means like we'll have heaps of people, thousands and thousands of people working on thousands of books. No, we'll go precisely. We're going to release 3 Amazing Spider-Man, and there'll be a 1 story going that way, and 1 story going that way, and 1 story going that way. And then you go to like, X-Men. Okay, we'll go Ultimate X-Men, Uncanny X-Men, and X-Men. That's it. Same deal. Boom, boom, boom. Which artist? 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. And you get to choose. That's how I would do it if I had the money, man. If I was in charge. Because like that's what I would do if I had, if I had the money to do what I'm doing, right? Because that means that I have the best people working with me, and the best people who are out there, the readers, right, there in the world, who are dying for good stories, which is why Ultimate Spider-Man #1 basically has, made everybody go, this is what we've been freaking waiting for. Then that's how you do it. You bring back Frank Miller and go, hey, can we get you on a Daredevil book, and do what you want to do with that, something fresh, something cool. Or do you want to do that?
Yeah.
Something like that.
The thing where I'm coming from is like, it's okay. You get Frank Miller. Okay, that's great. But with the format of how things are, Frank's only going to be on the book, or he's going to do a book. He's going to do 5 issues or run for 10, what have you, right? Sometimes longer, but you can't tell a story like that. Like, look at manga, like, it is a long form story that has an overarching sort of plot. You know,
Yeah,
the
that's
characters
something I'm
all
working
have
on as well.
goals that
Yeah,
the reader is aware of. Like, what's the goal of Spider-Man? To defeat crime? Well, there's always going to be crime. He's essentially a police officer, you know.
yeah,
So
yeah.
what he,
With a special suit,
whereas you
right? A
look at
special power.
Naruto, okay, he wants to be the master ninja Hokage. Dragon Ball's a little bit different because it's sort of it is like the Superman of the manga world. It keeps going, and Goku's motivations are pretty sort of you know minimal, but My Hero Academia, he wants to be One Punch Man. He's sort of got this thing where he's like working up the hero ranks,
Yeah,
all these stories. Berserk, he's trying to get revenge on the God Hand. All of these have sort of very clear goals and motivations that the audience can sort of get behind,
yeah,
but you can do that currently with Marvel, but at the moment it changes every 5 issues. So it's like
yeah.
it's just sort of
So,
rinse and repeat. So like I said, my thing would be, okay, you've got 5 years to wrap up Spider-Man. Give him a goal, give him some big bad who's going to
yeah,
destroy you, New York or whatever. He is going after that guy in 5 years, and
right.
something cataclysmic's going to happen, and it's going to be over. You know?
They did do that in the Ultimates though, like Ultimate Spider-Man,
Yeah,
right?
right, yeah,
They did. They ended that, and that's where Miles came in.
right,
And
right,
what
yeah.
was like
So
Ultimate
imagine if you
World
had,
number
so
four.
imagine if you had the Ultimate Universe, but it was, and the other elephant is the rumors that we're talking about one genre. I don't know another medium where the mainstream has gone, okay, we're
Yeah,
only making one genre now. Like,
yeah.
could you imagine
Well, I
like
don't do
Penguin
it.
Random House going, hey guys, we
Yeah,
only write romances now. We're only
yeah.
releasing romances. Everything else is gone. Political fiction, biographies, forget
And
it. This is all you're
and here's
getting,
the thing. And here's the thing that happened in the 60s and 50s for them, and they just walked away and never went back to it, right? Because they had like,
Right.
look, I showed that book last week, right? These books, right? These ancient books that you had out there. Man, I need to get gloves, man. Like I really need to now because it's always in the back of my head. Professor thinks that about the gloves.
Yeah.
Like this is freaking 60 years old, man. The shit's older
Right.
than me. Right? So I got to do that now because it's just annoying the hell out of me that I didn't get in gloves this week. So look, this is for girls, and they dropped that, right? Because it's like comics were evil, horror, and because
Oh,
it was
this is
like
like the
there was no.
comics code thing. This is
That's
a
it.
theory I've heard recently that's very
Yeah.
interesting. All right, continue. Yeah, this is
If
really
you look
interesting
into
stuff.
it, so when that happened, this is Fleetway Library, so I think it's out of UK, right? Just for girls, dude. Just for girls, right? Because you won't get a guys reading this shit, and I don't mean it in the wrong way, girls, right? It's just a romance. Guys isn't interested into that unless there's freaking fighting and there's a love
Right.
interest and all that. Got to save the girl and all that. But this is just stories about girls, right? For girls, right? And like that's like there's a series of them, like a girl night, rally to Catherine. These are cool things. But when that comics code came in, they just went, the safest thing we could do is just superheroes, and we'll stay with superheroes. And they
True.
never looked
Okay.
back. So there was no romance comic books anymore for the other market, and that market is now has in the last 20 years has turned to manga. Now,
Yeah, true. Well, here's the thing, right? Like what I mean, I'm sort of like you. I'm in the same boat as you. I was a big Marvel head and sort of just I moved cities and
mm,
closed my comic book box, and I was like about to go to graphic to set it up again, and it was
yeah,
like, man, I don't actually enjoy reading these anymore. I'm spending like $200 a month on X amount of titles. Like,
yeah,
I'm like, why am I doing this? It's just a chore, So I'm in the same boat as you. But what
yeah,
I've picked up some like Venom and books and what have you, and there's like this strange sort of like fantasy aspect to it. Like there was some like weird like King of the Symbiotes
Is that
storyline or
King in
something like
Red or
that.
something? Is that the
Yeah,
storyline?
something like that. Something like that.
Because that really popped
go
off, and everybody was like, "It's a big, it's a
right,
each
right.
issue of that is really worth a lot
But
because of that whole."
but it's clearly like this, almost like this dark fantasy stuff, and it's like,
Yeah.
well, why would you even put this in a superhero universe? Why wouldn't you take this sort of creative energy and just make a fantasy title? A dark
Because
Marvel, make a dark fantasy title where
they
everyone's
only do
like,
superhero
this
though.
is new, what the heck?
Yeah. Because they only do superhero, and they got to stick with that genre, and they got to tell the stories in the genre. If you look at like
But
John Graham,
I guess my
John
point
Graham,
is that you could very easily segue from superhero stuff to science fiction and fantasy. And, if you go,
yeah,
well, if Marvel goes, okay, we're releasing a romance book, people are going to go, okay, well, that's kind of odd, But if
yeah,
Marvel was like, look, we're going to branch into fantasy, I would be like, whoa, that's cool. That's
yeah.
interesting. That I read fantasy. I'm into science fiction. I'm into it. Let's see what you can do in that genre. But
But here's the
at the end
thing,
of the day, if you don't like
right?
superheroes, you don't like Marvel or DC. You don't like those companies. It's
But here's the thing, right? But what if there's another company offering that already, right?
well, that's
So
I
what's
mean,
the point?
so
What's the point of sticking with someone who's already offering you that already? Why keep banging your head against expecting them to change when
I'm not expecting anything,
no
but
no
I
that's
think it's we're a couple of guys talking about baseball. You know what I mean? Like,
oh yeah, but like
we're
what
just
I mean
talking
is
here.
like if manga's already doing it, then you're just gonna go do manga, right? If manga's giving you right romance, right? If manga's giving you superhero, if manga's
Yeah,
giving you
but Manga wasn't
supernatural
doing
demons,
superhero
angels,
before My Academia.
yeah,
They ventured into that genre, and it was a smash hit.
yeah.
Let Marvel do a flippin' samurai book. I'll buy it. It's new. It's different. Fuck it. But
Well, that's Star Wars, isn't it? Samurai is Star Wars. I mean, they got
I,
lightsabers.
jeez, I guess so. But
It is based on
I guess
like
so. But again, it's like that's Star Wars. That's another. That's when did Star Wars come out? The 70s.
yeah,
It's
yeah,
a 60-year. It's almost a 60-year-old property. 50-year-old
yeah.
property.
But
So
there's a thing. So comics has become like Hollywood, which is no point in doing anything new because we've already got built an IP and built an audience, and that's safe, right? So
yeah, there's
Hollywood,
way more risk associated with having something new, but the
right?
industry is slowly drowning.
Oh
So
yeah,
it's like you need some sort of injection, and you
yeah.
need some. Pop culture is novelty. I look. Name me another industry where all the characters are 60 years old.
Hmm.
Like
I want to show you something.
imagine if like PS5, like on the PS5 tomorrow, it was like, okay guys, we're releasing Pong 23,
Yeah.
and we're Pac-Man, like it's Pac-Man and Pong still. It's like
Wait.
these
You're
these
wrong
are
there
these
though.
are relics, man.
What's coming out tomorrow
What is coming out? Don't tell me.
in the video games?
I don't know.
Isn't it
What is
like
coming out?
Tekken 8?
Tekken 8. Well, Tekken 8 is, here's the thing. Tekken's doing well though. And the game industry is coming out with new stuff. I don't have a problem with you making Batman. But if
Yeah,
everything you make is 60 years old,
yeah,
it's tired, it's boring. I mean, Tekken
yeah,
came out in like 94?
yeah.
So it ain't
Was it?
that bad. It ain't that bad, man. I mean,
So wait, hold on. Tekken. That's the
might not
movie
come
as
up in
well.
IMDb. Yeah,
Motion. No.
98.
Ah.
I think it came out in like
But usually they have the
95.
games there listed as well. So let me find.
Oh, true. I didn't know that.
Yeah, they do. They do list the games because they have actors in it. you know, like voice actors
Right.
and all that.
Oh,
Tekken,
gotcha. Yeah. You're right.
first game release year. So yeah, I mean, like, I don't like when you've been for 60 years, right? Say you've been recognized as the company that does that, that one
Right.
thing, right? And if that's all you do, it came out in 2009. No,
Tekken, no way,
1999.
man.
Sorry, yeah, 1999. That's all.
No, that can't be right.
Is it Tekken Card Challenge? No, that's Tekken Card Challenge. Hold on.
Yeah, Tekken
Um,
1.
Video game, 1994.
There
Arcade,
you go.
original release,
So
1994.
like, and here's the thing: like, I would levy uh, the same criticism at Tekken. One, it's not as old, but if Tekken the sales weren't there, like I would be looking at them and going, you might need to sort of rethink your strategy. You might need to come up with something new. But
Yeah,
I mean, who makes is it like what? It's Namco, right? Again, if
yeah.
Namco was only
PlayStation,
releasing,
Namco.
yeah,
Where is it?
yeah. Let me have a look at Namco's like game lineup. I mean, yeah, I don't have a problem with established properties, but when you're releasing like a volume of a story for one character, for 80 years, how Superman's over 100 years old, man. Like,
Yeah. Well, I
so
think
how can it be good? It's 100 years old. It's the same character for 100 years.
I don't know if I mean like you can still do something fresh with it. It all comes down to how well you do it, right? How much effort you put into it. And so far, like I was listening to somebody yesterday talk about how Flash was supposed to be different. The ending to Flash was supposed to be different. How Henry Cavill was supposed to be different, and was supposed to tie it all up. But there, between Warner Brothers and who's that other brand? Warner Brothers, Discovery, right? So Hamada was going to end the whole, DCU, right? DCEU. And so
Right.
when Discovery came in and said, no, we want to revive it. And so you ended up with Batman with Batman with Pattinson, right? And then they carried on with the Flash, and they were going to do Batgirl. And it was Discovery that said, hey, Batgirl sucks. We're not going to put it out. And we're okay with Pattinson doing his thing. That's pretty cool. Standalone. And so on. And yeah, he tied it up really well. It's out there. I can't remember what it's called. But he was just saying about how the changing of the guards basically ruined, what we were going to get as a finisher into, the whole Gal Gadot.
Like the what do you call the Snyderverse?
No, just that whole arc of it, Nolan and all that, everything about that. They're just dark universe, kind of DC dark universe. But then you had like suddenly just got dumbed down, right? Like you said, like what Justin was saying earlier. DC did that with the movies, right? They were doing really mature stuff, then watered down to try and match Marvel. So if your strength is in Joker making $1 billion, then you do something like Pattinson, right?
Right.
And then you go and do something even like, now here's the thing. Aquaman would have made $1 billion if they completely removed Amber Heard from it, because that was a damn good movie. And it's made its money back because people realize it's a good movie if we just friggin' ignore Amber Heard, right? Being in it.
Right.
And it's already made $400 million. Like that's on top of Amber Heard being in it, right? I was looking at it the other day. So the reason I've got Roadhouse is because they've just made another,
Right.
Right.
Well, here's the because you do make a good point, and so does Justin. You know, the DC universe was a darker, more mature, superhero movie, and I really like that. Like, one of my favorite, what I still think the best superhero movie, other than Spider-Man 2, Tobey Maguire, best Spider-Man, is The Watchmen. I know that's controversial. I know people
I
don't
like
like
it.
the translation, but it's
Yeah.
dark as shit.
Yeah.
And it's super stylish and super well done. But here's the thing: if you are going to make something more mature, you know, there's less people going to go to it. But here's the thing:
Right.
I mean, in an ideal world, studios would be like, yeah, that's okay. We wanna make good art, good culture,
Yeah.
but they don't. We're like, look, how do we get as many bums and seats? Like you said, let's dumb it down, water the product down so kids can
Yes.
enjoy it. People can take their toddlers don't get scared. Um, yeah, it's just
Well, you've got
but
you've got your audience already by making those movies. Like, you look at friggin' the Batman trilogy, right? What's his name? Nolan trilogy, right?
right,
Did really well. You came out of that. You had Joker, did friggin' so well. Aquaman, billion. Joker, billion, right? And and Aquaman 2 would have made $1 billion. Even with all the difficulties against it, it's already made 400 million, right? So it's made its money back. And the reason for that is because women love Jason Momoa. Men want to be like Jason Momoa, like a good
right,
father, a good husband, and a good
right.
brother, which this movie's about, right? About how do you become against all the things happening to you, all the challenges, how do you be a
Are
good
you
father?
so? Are you talking about the number Aquaman 2? Is that what you're
Yeah,
talking
this
about
is
now?
Aquaman 2 numbers right here.
Right. Well, see, here's the
Right?
thing. I mean, it's gross. I mean, it's doubled
Oh
its,
yeah, yeah. But I mean, this is
its
like
money.
it about $1 million to that for promotion, right? Or whatever
Right.
that is, right? So that's the cost of it, making it, right?
I mean, that's sort of like another thing Marvel
And
has
you've met,
done to sort of stuff the
yeah,
industry. It's like, okay, we didn't make $1.2 billion. It's like, this
yeah,
is a failure. It's like, dude, you made
yeah,
$200 million. You made the studio $200 million. You know what I
that's
mean?
why indies. And we've discussed this, a couple of weeks ago about how why the indies win, because they take 15 million and make 100 profit. That's
Right.
it. They see that as a win. So then now they
Right.
could go and release another movie, maybe with like 20 million, because they got to add a bit more to it. Now they're still going to make 100 million, right? Now still got 200 million in the bank of $40 million. Now they're going to try again and again and again, but they're not going higher in the making of it, right? The budget isn't going higher. It's not, blowing up, because they understand you got to go low to go high, to make
Yeah.
profit. You can't, that's why even indie comics are doing better, right? Because of that, because people are realizing that, you can't pay big dollars to people, because then you're not going to have a job, right? If you're paying everybody big money, then the guys who are starting out are going to expect that money, and then they're going to go, well, you're not that quality, and they get pissed off and they get out of the industry, which kind of is not a good thing, because if you want to have new people coming up. But I think when we really look at how, what Marvel did, they should just stay to what they're doing and go back to what was happening with with the Avengers and that whole thing. And they want to try, because they know they've dropped the ball, and they've been told over and over by the audience. And the only way, there's and I don't like talking about this too much, but I think the only way people they voice their opinion in the harshest way is money, right? And they did.
Right.
They have, and they've continued to do it, right? So let me try show you something that's really I'm
Yeah,
gonna
sure.
be
I
opening this
mean,
up tomorrow, but I want to show you how profit works, right? And how people are walking away
okay.
from things.
I mean, here's the thing. I mean,
in a
this is.
real physical way.
I want to use the MCU as like exhibit B in my my theory, right?
Yeah.
Because all that's happening right now is audiences are tired of what they're seeing. It's like, yeah, okay, you had this massive arc, it's finished.
Yeah.
Oh, you're just gonna try and do the same thing again? Like we're just gonna get a bunch of origin movies and yeah. Okay, yeah. What's new? You know what I mean? So it's just all that's happening with the MCU movies and why that no one's going anymore is like they're bored. You know, they've seen it before. You know.
So have a look at this, right? Have a look at the price of this at the top. Let me pop that away so you can see, right? So you see the price on top? That's New Zealand dollar. See that?
Right.
Guess how much I paid for it?
How much?
Now the day I saw this in the shop, which was last year, about December or maybe earlier when it came out, I wanted this. This is the only character I wanted from it. The Flash, right? Because I like this character in that movie, and it was cool. I wanted it. I thought it was really cool. I even have a character with a short hair like that. That's an Incredi-Girl too, and I could basically, repainted her costume, can't mess around with the bed, cut here and there, and I could now have my character right from there. Right. And I'll just, put it in hot water and flatten that, that part on her, right? So it's flatter, so you can't see the S. Now, I waited 2 months. $15. 1 5. Okay. 1 5. That's a saving of $34 for this brand new item that's in the shops right now. Because I waited, right? I really wanted it. I waited, and guess what? Today I went and bought another one because now I can keep this and I can paint the other one, and that's $100, and I've only paid $30. That's 30% from 2 of these, right? So basically, 70% has been saved by waiting. So this is what is basically the Marvel and DC right now, right? They've lost 70% profit, as far as if you really think about it in the terms of this. Now their product's only worth 30%. It used to be worth 100%. Now it's only worth 30%. And it might be my maths is all over, might not even make sense. But if you really think about it, if this is the value of this thing, and if they're looking like last year, they said lost about $1 billion. And somebody said somebody lost 2.7 billion, and not.
That's Disney, man. They've had a string of sort of
studio that lost that. It wasn't Amazon. It was somebody lost 2.7.
Disney has done really poorly. Their last several animated movies have not performed well at all.
Yeah, but I mean that's because they wanted to go, all over the shop, and they don't. They've lost. They've really lost families. They've lost mom and dads, right? If you lose the parents who pay for the stuff, right? The tickets, the movie tickets, the toys, the games, video games, the comic books, when they're still kids, right? Because Disney's a kid thing, right? A company that does children's PG-rated, G-rated products. And so then they introduce, it's just the way it is, man. I don't even want to talk about them too much because it's just, they just.
Why, you've said that a couple of times.
I know, but what I mean is it's an allegory, right? It's an allegory on society right now. It's like you're the people who are supposed to look after our kids, and we're supposed to have we feel safe you looking after them in our homes.
Right.
Now we don't, and parents don't. And I think it was WW Pro, which I saw today, and I think they were talking about that they're no longer family. Families don't view them as people who. Yeah, it was this one here. Let me bring this up. So I'm going to zap through this, and hopefully, I'm actually looking to do an interview with WW Pro. So hopefully, we could, talk about him in an interview later on sometime. So I want to fast forward and see where. This is one of the cool things about this is that speed.
I think is on another note. I think the Disney Plus introducing Disney Plus as sort of like a channel for viewing this stuff is watered down there. Yeah.
Here we go.
Because here's the thing. I like if I've got a Disney Plus subscription, I'll never go see a Disney movie again. I'll just wait for it to come to Disney Plus.
Yeah, but that's the other thing. The observations, like Robert Meyer Burnett was talking about like physical media. They've basically lost $40 billion by not having physical media. They gambled on streaming, anyway, guys, if you're watching this is the after party. We did a 2-hour show about 2.5 hours ago with our comic book guest and our cosplayer and trading card guest earlier on. So this is like after 2 hours, we basically go into after party and talk about everything and anything to do with pop culture. So thank you for watching. If any of you guys are know us, know Plungecast, or would be interested in coming on, and especially if you're part of the Niobe team, be keen to have you on. Or if I've interviewed you or something like that, yeah. If you're a comic creator, indie comic creator, welcome to come on. But and let me know if you are in the chat, and then I'll put out send you a link. Now, where were we? Sorry, bud.
Bob, you think you're going to show me this video? Bob Iger is the problem. I've heard of Bob Iger. I don't know.
They were looking at like suing. So this guy. Yeah. So this guy's talk. Yeah. So this guy here.
Same difference. It's all coming from the same place.
Sorry, my bad.
This is what
so they did this video this afternoon. Yeah, but Glenn Beck they're talking about the actual class action suit. Class action suit that the shareholders could bring towards Disney to stop them doing what they're doing, because it's a sinking ship and you got to cross correct, right? You're heading towards the iceberg, and they don't want the only people losing here is the shareholders, their investment, right? So you got to course correct. So this is what they're talking about. But
right, so Tom is exactly right, though, Tom. Because
good thing. So I had a normal. There we go, normal. Right. So
Tom, what you're saying is that families have largely rejected the idea that when I give you my kids and they go.
There we go. The thing is about here.
I thought we were going to state curriculums.
It's the rise of the Disney adult. It's the same difference. It's all coming from the same place.
Content.
Right. So Tom is exactly right, though, Tom. Because Tom, what you're saying is that families have largely rejected the idea that when I give you my kids and they go to the government school, that you're going to sneak in propaganda to my child that should be the purview of my decisions as a parent on what they're going to know and when they're going to know it. And also at the same time, that families have rejected largely the idea that Disney is going to sneak that material into their homes, not via the front door, which, by the way, if somebody came to your front door and said, I have a not-so-secret agenda, may I come in and teach your child? That person would be in danger. But Disney isn't in danger because Disney sends it through the wires and airlessly through the Wi-Fi straight into your children's
propaganda
eyeballs.
laundering.
Yes, and so families have rejected it on both sides, private and public.
And on the school front, they can't even pretend that there's even the straight versions of those books available, right? Because I would have known, I would have stolen when I was in high school.
Yeah, right? That's a really good point.
There's something coming out.
I'm going to go check Tom's old locker right now. There's grave fears lie inside.
That's why they're not there anymore.
Now,
there's so many locks in the thing they still haven't broken in.
We've obviously come a very long way as far as the culture being aware of this. The entire reason that I started a YouTube channel, not that part place, not the pro channel.
Things about
and on the school front, they
door. Which, by the way, if somebody came to your front door and said, "I have,"
It's the
Here's
same
the
difference.
thing,
It's
the
all
state
coming from the
curriculums are more racy
same
than the Disney
place.
content.
Right. So it's going to take me ages to find it, but basically what it was like, it's not just in
Yeah,
America.
give us the lowdown. Give us the.
Yeah, it's not just in America that people are rejecting Disney. It's the entire friggin' world, right? It's China, it's Asia, it's friggin' Middle East, it's friggin' the islands, it's New Zealand, it's Australia, it's Indonesia, right? It's Latin America, it's North America. So why everybody's pissed off at Disney. To be really honest about it, is like it's supposed to be a safe place, right, for your kids. You could put a movie on and you could walk away and leave the kids to enjoy for an hour and a half or whatever long that is, and then come back. You're doing vacuuming, you're doing the gardening. Kids are just happy. They're playing playing cards or whatever, and they're listening and they're watching or whatever, and they're basically babysitting. You can't do that now.
Right.
And people all over the world have realized that. And this is parents. Parents have the money. Parents take the kids to the movies. Parents take buy the videotape. Or they buy the DVDs. They buy the music their kids sing to. What was that? Frozen, right? Was it the last great thing that they produced? Was it by Disney though? Was Frozen by Disney?
Yeah.
And so
yeah, it was.
that. Yeah. Was it Frozen?
They've had some. I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. They've had some controversies. I mean, Strange World had some strange things in it. Well, not strange things.
That Toy Story. No, it wasn't Toy Story. It was Bud Lightyear, right?
Buzz Lightyear. Yeah. I mean,
talking about Bud Lightyear, right? I saw this much, 3 rows of maybe about 10 on clearance, like really clearance, like about $30 to $8 clearance of the figures, and they're still sitting there, in the clearance area at Farmers, and nobody's buying them. Right. That's what I'm saying about this. When the toys don't sell, it means the kids are not interested in them. If the kids are not interested in them, then at the end of the day, you have a dead IP, because toys, as George Lucas, has made him a billionaire by holding onto the rights of the toys. He learned very early on that the toys is where the money is, merchandising where the money is. So if your merchandising isn't selling, right, and this is the same thing for us indie creators, right? On Kickstarter, we offer you virgin covers, right? No text. We offer you, alternate covers, right? So you got 2, and you got, is it 2 and 2? Yeah. So you got, and this is one because I collected them myself. Like this one came out, so you got 2 and 2, right? Different cover. We offer you a variant cover. And this is what and then also same thing. You got variant cover, and I think it's a 2 or 3. 2 virgin, 1 virgin, 3D. So there's a different cover altogether, right? So the 3D cover, which means like the 4th variant, right? And this is from, all of these are from, because I love the series. This is the original series of Garth Ennis's Jennifer Blood. And they kind of got a movie coming out, which will, make it work for me. Now, so where was it? So now so this is why, if you don't have the extras, and what I mean by merchandising for us on Indie Comics with Kickstarter, Indiegogo, whatever else, but I'm on I'm on Kickstarter, right? With us. And so with us being on Kickstarter, we're offering stuff, that are extras, just like Marvel and DC are doing, which is merchandising, posters, toys, hats, right? DC had t-shirts, pajamas, socks, shoe prints, like you can get little kids freaking Spider-Man shoes, all that shit. That if that isn't selling at retail value with that markup, which is like usually about 60% markup or something like that. If that's not selling, your IP is dead. And if you don't revive your IP, then your merchandising continues to die. And that's why people are seriously thinking, well, maybe need to do legal action. I mean, there's stuff like if you want to watch what's going on with with the legal side of things, with the shareholders and all that, and because that CEOs and stuff, WW Pro is probably the best place because they're really digging deep, go for the blood and bones and there with them, right? Because they're like industry people kind of
Right.
But yeah, man, like so. I think that's where we're at now. Dead IPs, and if they don't course correct and go back to family friendly, right? That's what they were. If they don't go back to family friendly, and stop playing politics, stop trying to get into gender and ideology and all that, let everybody else do it. HBO, right? Peacock, right? What else is there? Max, all the other people do it because you are known as the family friendly, right? And like Justin was saying, right, that when DC, right, they were dark. When they went light, right, when they went soft, they lost people, and they started losing money. I mean, like, look, Flash. I like the Flash movie, the story. I hated the Flash.
Yeah, I actually like the Flash movie, which is kind of weird. I was expecting to hate it, but I was like, this is actually kind of fun.
Yeah, because it's a story, right? The story is the part that makes it work. But like, I don't like the actual actor, and I had to keep switching off my brain while I was watching it.
Well, yeah, he's human garbage. I mean, he is human garbage, but that's, I mean, but yeah. I would love to see a standalone. He's human garbage too, but yeah, it is what it is.
I would love to see a standalone with this character, right? This actress doing this character, because that would be really cool. And I just give her,
it's funny actually. I mean, this is just as a side note because all the Flash is based on like Flashpoint, right?
Yeah.
And same with Civil War. Logan's another one too. I mean, all of these movies are based on comic IPs. Not House of M, but WandaVision is sort of based on House of M. The thing that me is, and a lot of it's to do with budgeting and licensing, but you look at those original stories and you kind of go, why didn't you be a little bit more faithful to the source material? I understand that it's a movie. You're not going to be able to sort of do everything, and it wouldn't work if you just sort of Sin City'd it and just turned it into a movie. But I mean, isn't Old Man Logan a way better story than Logan is? Isn't like the original Flashpoint way better than what we got in the Flash?
I think Logan worked because you could see he was so far in the future, right?
Right.
And
no, it's a great movie. Have you read Old Man Logan, the original?
Standalone, right, on its own. And then you're talking about the Old Man Logan as in like the Mark Miller series, right?
Right.
Yeah. So if you really think about it, like the Logan movie takes place before Old Man Logan. And but the ending sort of like kind of like dilutes the story. If you said it was before Old Man Logan, then you'd have to let him live, because then he had to go up. Spoilers. He would have to go and fight against the Hulk family, right? Which is what I have, like in the sense of this.
The whole setting is completely different. I mean, all the mutants have sort of been expunged, but it's not through some sort of I don't want to ruin Old Man Logan. If you haven't read Old Man Logan, it's excuse me, one of the best superheroes, one of the best things Marvel's produced recently. And it's standalone. It's there you go.
Yeah, I have 2 sets of this because it was on special, so I bought both, and I'm like, I'm going to buy this and I'm going to buy another one because it's on freaking special, So one stays in the box and one is like all over the place. But
right. But that's what, when I look at those movies, I just go, if you could have pulled this off somehow, this would have been so bananas. Like the whole
And
like
you
the
could set up
setting
so
where
much.
America's being carved up into 5 different states, and there's a superhero sort of overlord of each state. Is like, how like bananas is that? Same with Civil War. It's like Civil War is like is like my favorite Marvel like arc story event, right? And it's like that is like the whole universe going at it, against each other. And then like you get to the movie, it's like what, like 10 guys? It's like this is
this. You have to ignore the whole Civil War thing when it comes to the movie, right? You just go, nah, that is the comic there, and this is this here, and like it's like almost like saying like, it's like almost like the art against the artist. Like, do you like love the art and not the, you don't have to like the artist to like the art. But I think it's the same thing, like what I think in this sense, and this is like not the egregious stuff they have done recently after Endgame, but Greg Rucka, like I mentioned this before, and how his book got me into DC Universe, right? Into Batman, made me become a freaking, mega fan of Batman, right? What, if you can call that. But you got to speak to him about 2009, I think it was, I think it was 2009, about the whole comic versus live adaptation. And sometimes you just got to switch your brain off, because one thing's one thing, and we'll always have the comic. But what I didn't like was how they started. Yeah, but what I didn't like after Endgame was how they just, just basically just spat on everything that happened in Endgame. They just weakened everything that was the strength of, that whole 10-year period of movies.
How so? What do you mean?
Well, you know how they started like bringing in that whole, what was it like? Who was it with? Who's the eye patch guy? Fury.
Oh, Nick Fury.
And that whole Fury with the green guys.
Oh, like the Secret War.
Yeah.
Like the
right?
Skrulls. Yeah.
Yeah. Your DNA can have tattoos.
Right.
Yeah, just like some weak ass stuff like that. But anyway, I just haven't watched it. Like none of them. I just after Endgame, that was it for me, man. Like, I mean, because here's the thing. I'm creating my own universes, right? At the end of the day, I'm creating my own universes. I'm creating my own characters. And I want people to read my comic books. I want people to come to see what I'm doing, right? And be able to come and see how much fun they can have reading my comic books. Because, you want to have people having fun. You want to have people enjoy themselves in the entertainments they're sharing in, and so if I'm out here, I want to give them, good story. If I can give them good characters, introduce them to new characters that will happen in the future, or whatever, and maybe, it won't be 100-issue series, right? Maybe it'll end in like about 10 issues or 12 issues, but the way I see it is like I'm dropping nuggets, whatever, everywhere, so that people can say, well, this is stories happening in the same universe, but this is their story. So you're not having crossovers, you're not having forced crossovers, and you're trying to, like I think it was the other day I was talking about like how, the universe of, the thing that ties our universe together is a religion, right? And you'll have those religious people around there doing this and that, in the background. Sometimes they'll poke their head up and do something, then they'll be away. They might be in space, and you tie that into that. Oh, that's in the same universe, right, as the Plunge universe. You'd have like witchcraft, but that's their story over there, right? Or something. It won't like, it won't try to like force themselves into it unless, it'll just walk in and out of the situation. It's like showing like Matt, who's a bald-headed white guy with a scar on his eye, and he's kind of like a killer for hire assassin, right? but he shows up in a supernatural book, just bumping into somebody, right, on the way somewhere. That's it. That's the only time you see him in that book, and you never see him again. But then you go and read another book and go, oh, there's Matt. That's his story now. He's got a friggin' 8-issue series coming up, right?
Right.
But then you go, oh, that's the religion that's the temple from that was in that book there. Oh, it must be in the same world, right? But that's different age group reading. So the two shall not meet, right, kind of thing. But you get to, as you grow into it, and this is a thing, right? As you grow into comics, you want the comics to grow with you. And problem here is with Thing's son Justin, right? Miles is his Spider-Man, and so he's growing into that Spider-Man. So he's not worried about Peter Parker because his dad grew up as Peter Parker with Peter Parker. Now you've introduced a new character as Spider-Man, but it's really Miles Morales, right? And so he knows it's Miles Morales as Spider-Man, but he understands that. Now, I don't know how they want to play that game, but I mean, at the end of the day, I just want people to have fun if they're coming to read a comic from me. And the same thing you'd want, right? If you're putting a comic out, if you're telling a story, doing the art, and even if you decide to do a trading card game, right? You want people to have fun. The moment people don't start having fun is the moment they look somewhere else, and that's what's happened with comics. They started looking somewhere else about 10, 15 years ago, right? It was about 2010 is when it started, for me, that I can think in my head, is when it started going downhill. Around that time. So that's been about 15 years now, and that's basically almost like a generation. That's 15 years. So when the kids started watching anime, they started around about maybe 10. So that's 5 years of anime and manga they started watching and reading. So now you've already lost that early age where kids would be getting into comics, right? Into art, especially boys. Right, boys would be drawing, and they go, "Oh, Spider-Man, let's draw Spider." They go, "No, I'll draw Naruto now, right?" And I'll do Pokemon, right? And I'll do what else is there that was out there? One Piece. So now you've just lost the entire generation, and it's hard to get them back because it's part of their DNA now. Manga and anime is part of that age group's DNA, this generation's millennials' DNA. And then while you've lost them, you've also lost Gen X as well. Majority of Gen X, you've lost them. So now you're screwed because you've lost Gen X, you've lost millennials. Was it X, Generation Y or something? Yeah. And then you've also lost the parents who buy all that shit, right? So you've lost the older kids who buy the expensive stuff, like our age group. Who are able to afford it, or if you're like me, you buy, if you're like me, you wait until it comes on sale and then you pay $15 for a $50 product and you save $34, right? 70%, you save 70%. But then the next generation, you've already losing them because the parents aren't going to go take you to Star Wars, aren't going to take you to watch Disney movie, aren't going to do animation. They're just going to look somewhere else for it, which is the past, which is what Justin was saying early on, and I think he said something early on that I just kind of put up, and then here we go. Yeah, so I'm going back and buying older comics that I've missed. I haven't bought anything new from Marvel and DC in ages, right? Just since I'm my age, right? And so, if that's the case,
but that's a really interesting point, right? But here's the thing. So that's completely normal in consumer behavior. Like, I bought the Odyssey, not too long ago. That's like written by the ancient Greeks. It's not weird to buy something old, and here's the thing: you can have a Spider-Man story or a Batman story that, there you go, right?
My brother bought this for me for a while back, a couple of years back, right?
Not
as
bad,
a graphic novel.
So that's the thing. You imagine you have the best Batman writer and the best Batman artist,
Yeah.
and they write like three like real solid volumes. I don't know, like 700, 800 pages, and it's
Yeah.
like the best 800-page Batman story from beginning to end, right? People are gonna buy that book in like 100 years time, and you can reproduce that. You know, that's what. But you don't have. I mean, who's the main character in the Odyssey? Is it Jason and the Argonauts? Right? Like I haven't opened my copy.
I think it's
Is that Jason and the Argonauts? I'm pretty sure. Or Odysseus? I can't remember. My Greek mythology is horrible. But anyway, you don't have Jason and the Argonauts going on new adventures, and it's like Jason and the Argonauts, they're open a
Odysseus.
restaurant.
Odysseus.
There you go.
Odysseus.
There you go. Yeah. So you don't have Odysseus, and it's like he's in New York and he's a struggling, newspaper man. It's and it's been going for 1,000 years. That's you move on. You get new stories. So.
But I mean, because they haven't, everybody's going everywhere else. So that's what I was saying early on. That like, if they're not changing, then you're going to go where someone's changing. If you look for new stuff.
I guess I get what you mean. I guess the point that I'm trying to make is I think there is an attitude where manga is fundamentally better. Like there's something fundamental to manga that makes it better than Western comics. And I think that's wrong. The format of Western comics is a massive issue. It's a massive sort of weight around comic book producers' necks. We're gonna do a story, same character, run it for 40, 50 years, and we're gonna tell little itty bitty stories, 5 issues at a time. People just get bored with it. Novelty is a massive driving factor in pop culture, and when you don't have something new going, it's just look how starved people are for new things. Ultimate Spider-Man comes out, and like people like chomp at the bit. It's like I guarantee you,
good, right? Just because it's new. Just because it's new and sells a million copies or whatever,
it's got to be good. Yeah, I mean that's a given. That's a given, right?
But if it's going to sell a product, then it's going to be good. But the thing is, they've released so much that's garbage.
They've lost a lot of goodwill. Yeah. But I sort of pinched the bridge of my nose that like there's a lot of like talking heads on the internet that go, oh, we just need to get the best artists and the best writers on these titles. Yeah. It's like, no, dude,
but the story's got to be good. But like that's why you see this, like why Ultimate Spider-Man #1 worked, because it went back to family, and we haven't seen family in Marvel comics for a decade, 15 years. I would say, so, and that's what they even do. Like the Fantastic Four, they messed that up as well, which is the first family of Marvel, right? Because you got kids, and I think a lot of people.
I mean,
they don't want to see broken stories. They don't want to see broken people that are doing broken things. See, we see that all the time in the news around us. We see mess, right? And so we haven't. And so we need. It's all about escapism, right? Entertainment's supposed to be escapism. I would turn on.
I think so.
Yeah, I'll turn on anime or whatever cartoons because it's escaping into it. I'm not watching real people in front of me. I'm just escaping into it.
I think you can make the argument. Yeah, you're right. Mainstream pop culture is escapism is a massive part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, and so if you're not if you're not being able to escape into the story, into the people's relationships, because look, at the end of the day, we want to see people and their relationships in them and being, in our entertainment and escapism. Why do all these iconic characters stay with us, right? because we see something of ourselves in them. And if they're like exactly like us, as broken and everything, and they stay broken, we don't want to know that shit. I don't want to I don't want to see a broken person as a hero. I want to see that broken person become a hero, right? Why has he become? Like, why do we look at Batman? Why do I like Batman so much? Because he lost both his parents and struggled and struggled and struggled and trained himself to be better, right?
You don't think Batman is sort of a broken sort of person in a way?
He is. And, like we talked about, like, I think previously about how Gotham is his wife, right? His girlfriend. And so he has a disconnect to real people. He has a real problem. And that's his, his part of his psyche, where he doesn't know how to really, connect with people because he didn't have that connection. I mean, he lost that connection to his family, the closest people at a young age. And
Right.
so we see that and we go, well, his whole thing is how to still try to help people, even though he's broken. Right.
Right.
And that's the hero, right? That's the hero part. But if we see him broken and if he stays broken, we won't care. We just move on. If we don't see him smart, we just move on. We don't want a broken bat, right? We want a Batman who's broken and healed, right? Like when he has get his back broken by Bane, he comes back, right? He goes away, gets, Alfred helps him and everything,
Right.
timelines out of sync in my head. But then he comes back, and he fights for his city again, right? That's number 3, isn't it? Is that where Nolan did number 3?
Right.
Dark
Well,
Knight.
that's interesting that you bring up the Nolan movies, right? Like,
Yeah.
I'll try and illustrate my point, right? Because by the third Nolan movie, like Dark Knight Rises, people were saying, "Oh, well, this is the worst one," right? Like, so it went Begins was good, Dark Knight was a masterpiece, and then the third one was like, okay,
Batman
like,
Rises.
this is okay, but it's not Dark Knight, right? Okay, what do you think the opinion of those movies would be if we were watching Christian Bale in his 8th Batman movie?
Wouldn't like it.
Right.
I wouldn't, because I like trilogies. I do love trilogies because there's an arc, right? There's a journey, and you got to have that arc. That's why I like 90-minute films. That's why I write 90-minute scripts, right? Which is like 90 pages, right? If I'm doing an arc, I might go up to 120 pages, which ends up being 4 issues, right? And so, actually 90 pages works up to be, I think about, give or take about 4 issues, because you're doing about 22 pages each.
It's about 4, it's about 4 issues. Yeah.
So if I want a longer arc, I'll go to about 120 pages to just, but I work at 90 pages because I find that like in 90 minutes, you can really tell a good story, start, middle, end, right?
Right.
That's all you got. That's why like Nolan works, because and any trilogy has to work that way. That's why like Lord of the Rings works that way, right?
Right.
Because what is it like? Lord of the Rings,
okay.
Return of the King, and
right.
What's the middle one?
The Two Towers.
Right. So Lord of the Rings, Two Towers, Return of the King, and that's it. That's your big arc, and that's the way it's been done. Like Jesus goes and gets born, goes to preach, dies, right, and then he rises, right, kind of thing. The resolution is that he rises.
Okay. So the Lord of the Rings is a great example, right? So Lord of the Rings is like the masterpiece trilogy. Okay. What if there were 16 Lord of the Rings movies?
It wouldn't work, man. Like,
why not?
You have to go, because the way you do it is like you go and tell Smog's story, right?
Right.
And like they do with the Hobbit, right? Then they go do the Hobbit story, and then there's another one after it. Oh, there's.
I guess that's what I'm trying. That's what I'm trying to illustrate is that you can't tell a good story, that long without some sort of overarching thing. I mean, that was the great thing about like Marvel's Endgame sort of saga is that like you you knew when they were starting to set up Thanos, there was an there was going to be this overarching sort of thing. Like there's going to be this massive battle against Thanos. Thanos is trying to destroy the universe. We got to stop Thanos. Okay, that was their goal. Yeah, there's some sort of drama in between, but that's sort of the overarching thing, right? But with comics, right? Comics is like The Simpsons. Where it's like
they never grow
you come
old.
out with you come out with a show, and then it's self-contained, right? And that works for comedy because it's there for laughs. But if you're trying to tell a good story, you can't do that for 80 years, and that's why manga works where Western comics is. It's got nothing to do with art. It's got nothing to do with the moment to moment writing. If you look at the moment to moment writing for manga, it's they have to deal with nativization. It's not Alan Moore. It's pretty sort of low key kind of
Well, no,
it's not bad. But
if you really, there's some amazing, like that's why I love anime, because there's so many variety there. You look at ReZero. I would class ReZero right up there with Alan Moore's Watchmen. I would.
Could you tell me a manga with like the writing was like the craft of the writing craft was as good as Alan Moore? Where it's like you read this and like, holy shit, this sentence is crazy.
Yeah, that's what I said. Like ReZero made me cry. I still can't watch it without tears in my eyes. There's a speech that
what line made you cry?
Yeah, so there's a speech that this is why I have this figure, right? So Ray, right? There's a speech that Ray gives, which is one of the twins, right? Because the other girl's Ram, right? Ram, which has got the pink hair, right? So they're twins. So Ray gives this. I'm still getting teary-eyed. Fuck. I tell you, man, that moment is stuck in my brain from the moment I've seen it. It's already got my tears going.
Trying to
where
find
he
it.
gives a speech, right? So I'm going to play it because you'll see why it's like almost like the entire episode. That's how long it is. And there's the greatest dialogue of a hero's, that you could give to a hero who's questioning his life, right? So Ray speech in ReZero. I think that's how they got it. Hopefully I don't, even if like we're at a point where like, I know it's only 2 minutes, right? So it feels like forever.
Fire it up. Or link it to me so I can see. But
no, I'm gonna play it. I'm gonna get done for copyright, but they're not gonna kill me because.
No, don't worry. No.
We just want to have the speech because it's worth it.
Just link it, and I'll watch it off stream. Put it in the private chat. I'll watch it off stream.
Yeah, actually, yeah. Right then.
I could be wrong. I'm more than willing to be proven wrong, but I don't think I don't think I've read a manga where like the sentence structure I've gone, dang, this guy is flipping. This is a beautiful sentence. This is really creative use of words. Yeah. Like I said, that they have to deal with nativization. So, but my point is this, right? My point is that it's not the moment to moment writing in manga or the art that sets it apart. That's another narrative. All the art, it's a superior art form. It's like there's a great video on YouTube. I mean, it's a little cringe, but it's like Western like comics artists versus manga artists, and they're pretty comparable. It's pretty equal. But
so there's 2 minutes. So with this chat, I mean, sorry, with these two videos, like, so there's like where he speaks and then she responds. And dude, if I could write like that, and once again, I'm getting teary-eyed. If I could write like that, I would be happy if I could bring that much emotion to somebody else, like those 4 minutes, or it is, because it's 2 minutes. And if I could bring that, it's like 2 minutes for her, and it's about 3 minutes for him. So that's both of the links are there in the chat as well as in private. And have a watch, and we'll discuss it next week as well about that. Whether you know if you think that
Right.
as
This is an emotional. Obviously, this is sort of an emotional crescendo to the story, right? I'm like watching it
like
now, so it's very emotional. It's
no action.
It's very emotional, right? Like, have you seen the movie Elephant Man?
It's been decades, man.
Yeah, so Elephant Man is like a super famous movie. Who's it got? Anthony Hopkins, John Hurt, I think plays the Elephant Man.
I thought it was like when I was like in my early teens.
It's old as dirt. It's a black and white movie, right? But
it's
there's this
Cher,
really.
right? Oh no, wait, it's not Cher, is it?
No. You're thinking of that the other movie with the boy, but like there's a really emotional part in that movie where people are harassing John Merrick, who's the Elephant Man, on this boat, and he screams out, "Leave me alone! I'm a human being."
Yeah,
it's a incredibly emotional scene. It's acted really well by John Hurt, but if you look at those words on the script, that's not great writing. Like, that's not a great sentence. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the moment.
You get what I mean?
Right? Emotional moment. So it's
an emotional moment, and it's good. It's good story structure and what have you. But it's like I'm not reading manga and going, man, these guys have like 15 IQ more than us. Like, how are they putting these sentences together? You know what I mean? Like, it's not like cerebral stuff where I'm going, how are they doing this? You know what I mean? The main thing that manga has going for it is that they're actually telling a long form story with like an overarching story.
Yeah, that's
there you go. I mean, this is gonna get you nicked for copyright, but this is
old.
I'm not an animal.
Like 15 years old or something. Yeah,
it's old. Yeah, it's old. You look at Anthony Hopkins and he's pretty.
Let me have a look.
Pretty young.
I mean
here's the thing with this like copyright stuff. This is editorial. We're talking about it. So
that's what I mean. So, it's 44 years old, dude.
Yeah, so it's old as dirt,
1980s. But, so let's have a look. Like, I mean, it's
38 seconds. We're analyzing it. Oh, he's not on a boat. He's on a restroom. Okay, sorry, my bad.
Right.
I am not an animal. I am a human being.
Okay, it's a strange way to do it, but you get my point, right? Like, that's a very emotional scene, and that's sort of the crescendo of the movie. He's being treated like human garbage just because his head is weird shaped, and he just has enough, and he goes, "Look, I'm not an animal. I'm a human being." It's a great scene, but so that's all I'm saying is this: is that if there is an attitude out there that manga is a superior art form with its art and its moment-to-moment writing. But
it's about it's the writing, right? The art. At the end, you could write that as a superhero comic book, Western European style. It wouldn't matter. It's about the story. Why do people gravitate towards manga and not to comics? Because of story.
Why do you think what is it precisely about the story, do you think?
Because it's about community. How many stories have you seen in manga where it's about relationships and where it's about like not just hitting people?
In Western comics, you know what? That I think I agree with you on that.
Yeah.
The themes are different for manga. So I think that. You know what? That's a really good point. That's I think that's probably 30% of the issue too. Yeah. Is that the things like
Western comics is basically about incidents, right? Huge incidents.
It's a great way of describing it.
Right? And
it's a great way of describing it.
When I looked at there's a moment when I really thought about Superman going, throwing somebody through a building, and I thought in my head, and that's when I thought, I'm not going to write like this. I'm not going to throw people through buildings just for the sake of throwing people through a building because it looks flashy and cool, right? Because people go, oh, look, this is flashy, cool. Oh, you just threw. No, there is something that came up recently that makes this totally explain superhero comics, right? Western superhero comics, Marvel and DC. Let's just say Marvel and DC.
Right.
So there's a kid walking across a railway track. He's in the middle, right? There's a train coming. Superman's like against the train like this, holding the train back.
Yeah.
Now, someone commented, Superman could have like just picked the kid up and flew away. But for dramatic effect and to make it look really cool, you had to have him smash himself, hold the train back where it comes full power. You know how fast Superman's faster than a speeding bullet, right? That's what, look as cool as that art piece looks, it doesn't make sense. The guy could lift up a friggin', a truck as a baby, Right. And so when I was looking at Incredi-Girl, when I was looking at creating her, when I was, my whole thing was like, okay, I'm going to do it for my niece, and how would I do a female character that will work? And and it was like, how do I write this character that makes it fun, for both girls and boys, and what do I put in there? And so for the girls, you find out in issue 2, right? Issue 1, we got the guys, and issue 2 brings in, other things. And I don't want to spoil it because I really like this book, and I really like the art. I like my artists, and I like my colorists working on this, and all the other, people who are, like cover artists and stuff. I mean, Shane's done a cover on this. It's freaking brilliant. We had this on the original web comic, and I brought it over, and he also did it. That's this is part of 2, and I don't want to spoil it. But it's there. It's just I'll put the black over it in case but it's there. And people when they get it, they'll get it. But I mean, it's only those.
I think you're right. I think that's another key thing as well, is that as sort of cringe as it is, with manga, when it's like the power of friendship, is like there is an appeal to that, like
Look,
I mean, how many? I mean, let me ask you this. I mean, no, you're of that generation. Like, how many girls do you know that like Dragon Ball? Maybe you're gonna.
I know girls who like Naruto.
Okay, that's a great example, because I know heaps that like Dragon Ball. So it's like, okay, well, why do girls like a book about spacemen punching each other in the face? It's like, well, no, there's this whole other aspect to it where, they're looking out for each other, there's families involved, like you said, so I think that's really key too, Naruto as well. It's, sort of community, is a big thing. Whereas I guess with superheroes, it is, Avengers is a little bit different, superhero groups are a little bit different, but you've sort of got this sort of family unit kind of aspect to it. I think that's really key too. That's a really, really interesting point that you raise.
It's really, look, we are human, but humans by nature is all about relationships, right? To the point it's detrimental to ourselves. We'll stay with the poison, right? Because we think we can change that poison, or that poison we feel like needs us, right? And we should change ourselves to be around that poison, because we want to be loved, we want to be cared for, we want to be communicate, right? I mean, art is communication, but here's the thing. I need a weekly dose of personal interaction with a real human being, right? I need that. I need a monthly interaction with my family in real life. And then I also need on like almost on a daily basis to be able to talk to the social media family around me, right? Because my friends are
Right.
there and they comment, like, like before I get I put out something and I get a feedback from Shane about what he thinks, and I get input from that. So I understand that I am not the weirdo out here thinking these things, because now I know that he thinks the same about these things, and I don't feel like alone, right? With his own
Right.
thoughts, right? So that's the whole thing. We don't want to be alone. And the idea behind manga is that nobody in that world wants to be left alone in those stories.
Sure.
They're always trying to help somebody else. They're always like, team up. Why do they always go to fucking school? Have you noticed that? At the end of it all, they all go back to school. Like they go to some academy, right? They live out in the wops. Like I was watching The Fruit of Evolution. Now in season 2, spoilers.
What is it with manga?
Yeah, they end up in school, in the academy to learn magic, right? Or teach magic, right? And also, they're always building. Like you look at like I think it's ReZero. Oh no, my life is as a what was it, slime, right? Something like
I know what
slime,
you're talking about. Yeah.
And basically now he's building a city to surround himself around people, and then for himself. And next thing you know, all these other people show up. We like you. You helped us. Now we want to be part of your city. See, that whole thing is about growing and relationships, and it keeps going. That's why fucking manga wins, and manga will always win. If modern, if Western comics don't go back to relationships. At the core of humanity is relationships, right? And if you're not giving people escapism into healthy relationships, even their struggles, they're still going to be going after that healthy relationship. They'll be chasing it. And you see that. Like, if you're at home, if you're cheating, if your daughter is not getting, like, if you're a parent, right? If your daughter is not seeing you as a good father, right, and is not getting your feet, she's going to look for a man out there who's going to give her the bad things, right? Is going to treat her bad. It's all a reflection of how you behave around them, and that's because it's relationships. And I think a lot of times we forget that, and comics has done that for 15 years.
Right? It's interesting because on the opposite of that, if you think about it, superheroes and secret identities and what have you is a pretty sort of solitary pursuit, right? You're going out at night fighting crime, unless you're in a team, it's pretty, you're by yourself, you're fighting it. So that's that's interesting. That's interesting.
And that also makes you very insular as well, because now you have a secret you can't share with people. And that's like an issue itself as well. Now you're lying to people, right? That's why you got Alfred, right? That's why you have, like, that's what I mean, like, once a week I got to have something, relationship, in real life, and talking with real people. Bruce Wayne, for that very reason, has Alfred. He can go and tell Alfred, what he's going through.
Right.
He can, because Alfred knows this, he's in the secret, right? He's in on it. And so then he goes and finds someone younger. Then he finds someone older, right? And then someone like Superman, right? And then you find someone, of the opposite sex, right? And the Catwoman, right? And so then you've also, bringing a team around him. And that's why that works. That's why I still like Batman, right? Because he's got this whole family around him, the Bat family, as they call him, right? Because that works. And that's why that fucking thing book sells more than any other book. Relationships, man, right? You can always have a Batman outselling anything else because of that. Now you had like Amazing Spider-Man doing that. Then Joe Quesada tried to basically destroy his marriage, right, with Mephisto, right? One More Day, right? And that was it. That just destroyed that whole series. People weren't like against it. No. And JMS basically said, take my name off it. That's how much he just hated that whole situation. J. Michael Straczynski, Babylon 5 writer, revived Thor, revived Strange, Doctor Strange in Marvel Comics. Nobody was fucking talking about Thor. Nobody was talking about Strange. And they got him to write that. And basically, They got a movie out of it, right? They got Doctor Strange being like, nobody gave a shit about Doctor Strange for decades, and then he wrote that, and then they, and then they went into he could like. Here's the thing: why is Ultimate and talking about ASM, right? Why do you think ASM's Ultimate Spider-Man sold so much? Because he's got kids, and he's got his wife back. Something that somebody wanted, like everybody wanted, 2000, right?
Right.
And so it's taken back them 20 years to give us back what we wanted from the start. Give them a family, have them grow up.
We'll see what happens. Because I think you're right. You've sort of highlighted what they should do. Whether they do that or not is, I think interesting.
Do you remember they destroyed Fantastic? Oh no, it's not Fantastic Man. What's his name? From Fantastic Four.
Like Reed Richards or?
Yeah, it's Reed Richards, right, and his wife,
right?
Invisible Girl, right? Invisible Woman with Namor, right?
Right.
They put a love triangle in there, like
Yeah, that was kind of weird, yeah.
And that's like the two families they could have had built on. And here's the thing: most of the people who fucking write these books don't have families.
Yeah, that's true.
They don't have children. They don't have family. So they only give us what they themselves experience.
Right.
So me, and here's why I say I need that monthly once a month dinner and time with my family, right? Because they have kids. I don't have kids. My sister has kids, so I get to hang out with kids, right? And that bounces me out. I can be doing this shit. I can go, oh, you're doing this, you're doing that, and get a big head. And I go, no, I just go back to my family and go, hey, how's it going?
Right.
I don't matter anymore. I'm just Uncle Aru, right? And that's all. And I'm not somebody creating comics because I just go there and there. I'm just me. And I think a lot of these people, Twitter or social media has made them think like they're big shots. And because of that, they've become isolated into their own little groups. And they all become their little big clique of big shots. And we're kind of watching that now with with the whole Eric July thing and EVS, with that situation.
What is happening with give me the lowdown on EVS versus Eric July. I think I've seen like maybe 20 minutes about like them bickering, and I was like, what the heck is going on? I don't even get it.
Imagine you tell the world that you want to be Stan Lee, the next Stan Lee, but you have no experience, but you got the money. But because you don't have experience, rather than surrounding yourself with actual people with talent and skill who could help you, you just think you know it all. Because
so is this? I'm assuming this is Eric July. I'm guessing.
Yeah, I mean, I used to be a fan of Eric, and this whole thing exposed him for who he is for me, right? And I still don't care about him in the sense like he can say whatever the fuck he wants, and so can EVS, right? They can do whatever they want, but I think I've learned the hard way that where my weaknesses are, I need to find those people who are strong, right?
Right.
And 5 years of running a convention has taught me that. Learning from people who work with me and people who are way fucking smarter than me, man. I just became a delegator, a manager, right? An organizer, and they became the talent and the skill, and they did their thing. Like you had Lynette today, right? We had her earlier on. She knows how to work out, sort out the cosplay, how to run those conventions, like the competitions and stuff.
I wish I had sort of known a little bit more about what she was about before I came on. Because
there was an interview. I've done an interview with her.
Oh, you have? Oh, shoot.
Yeah.
Okay. Because midway through, I was like, oh, you're actually super cool and you've got like lots of interests, but like I can't think of anything on the moment to like sort of go, hey, tell me about this. You know what I mean?
I mean,
okay. That's interesting.
We had a couple, last year, in the like Fungeray Creatives Invade Plungecast. And so let me find the link for that, because if you guys are watching the thank you for joining
That's
us
cool
again.
that you're repping your area, by the way. I think that's
cool. Man. I'm like, look, at the end of the day, this is I'm not going to be here for whatever long, right? So I got to make sure the next gen has got a lot of mentors that they can look at, all these videos they can look at and get inspired by.
You're not going to plug yourself into the AI, are you? You're not going to become an AI?
Probably, I wouldn't mind that, to be honest. I think that's pretty cool. Not an AI, but like actually where you actually, have a virtual self that you leave behind.
Yeah, that's fine. Yeah. But I guess that's kind of weird. I don't know.
I mean, if it gets better, it gets better, and we get to sort of like,
I've been following that guy who's like slowed his aging down to a 10-year-old. Have you seen that guy? He's on YouTube. He's got like a YouTube channel. I think he's like in his mid 40s, and he's like a millionaire. So it's like it's out of reach for us, but he's worked out this regimen where it's like just slowed his aging down to absolute zero. And it's like, I'll have a look and get some tips. And like, dude, his diet is just out the gate. It's like, I'm eating just bean gruel and like 60 vitamins for breakfast. It's like, yeah, dude, I'll just age out the normal way. I'll just,
I think what were we talking about before that? Like,
we're talking about Eric July and Eric July and EVS.
People like the drama, and we've talked about this on IB Comics, and with the panel there. In a couple of weeks will be over, or a month or two. Just as long as it once people just get bored with it, it'll be over. But I think, look, a lot of us comic creators are doing it for the passion of it. We're not trying to change the world. For me, it's about storytelling. It's always been the storytelling. When I did my film course, so the way we talked this before, but I did stage, right? I wrote for stage. I did skits, 3 minutes. I did a minute long. Then I went to film school because I wanted to tell a story. I wanted to make a feature film. I'd done short films already. I want to learn how to make a film, right? Because I love film. I've always loved film. I grew up, basically, 6-year-old kid watching a friggin', movie at the neighbor's house on a VHS, right? Tape in the 80s, early 80s, might even be like late 70s. Memories all over the place. But I have a goal. My goal was to go make a movie because I wanted to tell a story.
Right.
Then after that, I wanted to continue. I think it was about third year or second year, my American Texas, feminist first wave, by the way, or second wave. I think it was not this modern feminism, but like 20 years ago, she was like first wave feminism, right? Or second wave, I guess. And so she's basically said to us, hey, let's think about this. Tell me what you want to do in 5 years. Where do you see yourself? And my only thing I said was, I want to be sitting under the tree in Fiji, writing with my laptop stories.
Not bad.
There was no movie making in there, right? There was no movie making in there. And I was just doing a friggin' 3-year degree in filmmaking, digital filmmaking, right? And I was about to shoot a friggin' film, hour and 15-minute film, because it's like a feature. Anything over 45 minutes is a feature, right? So, and all that was that's been my thing ever since. Write stories, tell stories, and I've done that. I'll continue doing that. Now, if your goal is to make money, you can do whatever you want, and you can do that. Mine's always been about being creative and making stories. Art, stories. Draw a picture. Whatever I'm doing, it's got something. I'm telling a story at some point in it, and because art is all about communicating, so you're already telling something. This is why I did this, and this is what it's about. And otherwise, what's the point of fucking doing that art, right? You can just smash it against the wall, and that's it. But we want stories. We've always wanted stories ever since that you started, or whatever, from like freaking, sitting around a fireplace, roasting our meat, right? Pieces of meat that's almost just caught, right? And skinned and gutted, and now it's stuck to our sharp stick, and we're over the fire. And the old guy there is going, oh, this is how we used to be in the old days, and he'll tell a story, and then somebody else will come along and tell us about this fantasy, this mythology that they had, and then carry on, and then later on. Now we tell it through comic books, or we through movies, and we tell it through TV, we through it through novels, and we tell it through art, and that's all it comes down to. It's like, but when your art starts thinking, and your stories start making people aggravated and not bring them joy or make them interested, or like the worst thing you can have when you're telling a story is an apathetic audience. They don't care what you're telling them.
Right.
And that's the worst place to be as a creative person, is where people just go, huh, I read that, yeah, not going to pick it up again. But I can tell you how much I love this book because I went and bought all the other covers for it, right? Because I love the first series first. I went and found all the other covers because I wanted my collection. Because that's how I am, and that's a lot of how comic fans are. That's why we would go out of our way to buy variant covers and posters and cards and trading cards of our favorite characters. Even a fucking seat, right? Because we want to connect with our, with what we love. And that connection, when it gets damaged, when it, when the creators behind it start slapping us in the face and calling us things that we're not, and we know we're not, and they try to gaslight us, then we turn against them. And then we go, well, we won't buy your shit. We'll go and buy the past. But you know what? We won't buy your comics, but we'll go to Manga now, and we'll go to indie comics and see what they've got going on. So you can sell a 90-page, I think, was it like a 90-page comic that doesn't really sound, because popularity, and sell for $4 million, right? But to be honest, I just want to tell a good story, and that's all I ever care about. And I will work hard at it. I will rewrite. I even said that to Thing this morning. Joachim, who's working on Zolandia, right? I said, listen. I don't care if I need to change my story to fit your art. If I need to crunch down this, dialogue down a bit, because your art is doing it enough for me, showing enough that I don't need to put all this dialogue in, all these captions. I'll do that. So I'm not rigid, because at the end of the day, me and you, right, are working towards telling my story in a really good way, because we are working together to tell this story in a good way. And that's all that matters to me. Because I've learned that, like, you can't be rigid, and you can't basically be out here just thinking you're the bee's knees, because there's somebody who's always better than you, and you just got to do what you got to do.
Stay humble,
because you're working hard at doing work, right? And you're looking at other stuff that's out here, thinking about how you're going to create what you create, how you're going to write what you're going to write. I think find the best stories you ever read, right? And look at why it makes you, move, right? Emotionally. What makes you excited about it, and what makes you, get emotional about it, what makes you laugh, right? And why it made you laugh. And because I'm not a very humorous person, I like to laugh and shit. I don't know how to write humor, right?
Right.
So
Humor is tough. Humor is tough, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know how to write humor, so I don't try to write humor. I just try to tell the stories how I feel like that stories should be told, and try not to force anything. So if I try to tell jokes in my comics, it would suck, because I don't know how to tell jokes. And so how would I write a joke,
Humor, I feel like writing, is it's like making wine. You take the grapes, and you there is some time involved where you just have to wait. Like, you just have to think and sort of brainstorm and sort of let the words brew a little bit. But I feel like with humor, that brewing time is the longest. You can sort of have a joke and and it's like, oh, this is really not funny. There's something there, but it needs to be. You listen to how like a comedian does it. They'll have a joke, like the initial sort of premise for a joke, go to a club, and then they try it, and it's like, oh, no one laughed. It's like, okay, well, I better change it up. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's that sort of thing. You just got to let it sort of brew a little bit. I mean, that's writing it 101, but with humor, that brewing time, I feel, is a lot longer.
It's the same. It's the same in writing a story. Like I was looking at when I fucking wrote Howler. Like I was talking about earlier about Howler. I've got an artist who can do freaking. I've got an artist who's approached us, who can do werewolves. So now I'm like, I better rush it. It's been 2 years since actually 2018 or something. I came up with the idea of doing a werewolf story, right?
Right.
And then I did started in 2022. That's 2 years ago, man. Right, and now I'm finally getting to it because it's lived in my head and I've changed it around a lot. I actually went and put a relationship earlier in the story, and then I went in the second half. I basically changed the entire second half because now I realize I need to make this a bit more visually, a bit more sexual, because the story's about werewolves and vampires. And the real essence of the whole idea of like blood and all that, and there's a lot of sexual things going on with vampires, right? If you really think about it. And
well, it's sort of innuendo,
yeah, and also the idea of like siring someone through the now you can be a young kid and you could bite a freaking old lady, and now they're your child, right? And that sort of weird stuff, and but also the other way around. So you could bite, and then now you're stuck in that age, right, as well. So if you got bitten by a vampire at a young age, you're stuck in that age forever. And what sort of mental issues you're going to have about being that age, right? And now you realize that you live for a century, yet you're still a fucking 10-year-old kid in your body. Yet inside your head, you've matured into a 100-year-old person, right? You're an old man in your head. And that trappedness. And so a lot of these things, over time, when you're looking at stories and looking at all the other vampire stories, and you kind of think I need to do something different and do something that's a bit more genuine, a bit more, original, without destroying the lore of it, right? Like I did, it's like shimmering skin. They can walk in light and all that, daylight, and nothing hurts them. There's going to be a reason for that. So if you look at I think it was Daylight or something, where they actually had this ultra thin cream, right? SPF 5-6 billion, right? And then you could do it, but you still had to cover your head or something. So there's all these thoughts you got to think about when you're writing something like that. You can't rush it. Just like like you said about comedy, it takes about a year. Like a lot of those guys get to do all these small things, and then they do the spectacle, right? Like a sellout crowd, and you're like, oh, I tested all my things. So yeah.
By the time you see it in a special, they've tested it out in a club, 100 times
over and over again.
Yeah. So humor is it's fun. Yeah, it's funny you mentioned that, because I remember sort of having some moments, but I've got basically the first part of my story is like a squadron of soldiers, right? And a big part of obviously soldiers, or a group of a unit, is they banter with each other. And it was and there's a lot of humor involved, right, with that sort of banter, and it was very hard to sort of make it sound natural. So I would put something, I was like, okay, I'm going to make a joke about this. And then it's write it out. And then I'd just look at it as man, this sounds so wooden and so contrived, that this, but I'll keep it in there for now. the notion, the basic premise is there, right? And and then I thought, just meditated on it, what have you, and it's like, oh, actually, I think if I switch these around, these words around and sort of use a little bit more of a natural tone, included this sort of element of the story. It's like, oh, it actually sounds pretty good now. It's the same sort of raw bit of clay that I was working with, but it's just sort of matured and been refined. You know what I mean? But like I said, I find that humor is just a case of like sitting on it until you think of, inspiration strikes. You know what I mean?
Well, the other thing with comedy is like, if you're trying to, like, you could tell that to someone next to you, right? Like someone you can, hey, what do you think of this, right? Like, I'm going to tell you this, and what's your response to that, right? But do you remember there was like the Special Forces TV show from the UK that starred the guy who used to be in EastEnders, like a bald-headed, tough, basically looks like Justin, right?
Yeah, I'm with you.
But he also did this tough like gangs thing as well around the world.
Yeah, I'm with you. Yeah.
If you watch that about these guys who do special ops things and stuff, and they banter, and because they're British, not American, right? You get like the Kiwi tone to it, because with the humor they use, because it's very much Kiwi, because they're we're British anyway. I mean, yeah, with the Europeans, but there's a different way that Americans do humor, that UK people do humor, and that Indians do humor, that Maori do humor, and so on.
Sure.
And it's I mean, like, watch tons of Billy J. James if you're going to do something with him, And I'm not trying to say that, but I think if you're right, if you sit on it for a bit, and you just let your mind, do something else while and then you come back.
Yeah.
It's our brains are amazing that way, because we only use 1/10 of it, right? But the moment we stop thinking about it and go doing something else, then it sort of clarifies into its, pieces itself together. It's unique because that's if you can get like the whole thing, like even with comedy, right? It's all about connecting with your audience, and if you're connecting with that guy you're telling, you're being humorous with in your story, bantering away, you got to think that if you got like army people, army men, right?
Yeah.
They're filthy, right? Because they're blokes.
Yeah.
They always hang out with blokes, so they get, they sort of talk, stuff like that, a certain way, And I remember when I was like researching for Red Dot, I spent 3 hours watching a friggin' documentary on New Zealand SAS, right? Their training, how many made it, what they went through, how they struggled, and then I actually went and watched the UK SAS. Actually that must be the name of that, wasn't it? SAS something. Let me just check.
I'm trying to think what that guy's name is without Googling it, but I know exactly. And he did like a sort of a gang, sort of toughest gang, the world's toughest gangs. Yeah, I forgot what his name is.
You can probably look it up that way. World's toughest gangs.
Let me have a look. UK. Because if you put in SAS, it's going to come up with Who Dares Wins. There you go. Ultimate Force. That's
it. Yeah, that was one of my favorite shows when it came out, man. Like, yeah, it was such a good show.
Ross Kemp is his name. That's right.
Yeah. Let me bring it up.
Yeah, I missed this show.
Yeah, 21 episodes, and they're short episodes, right? Because like about 6 episodes per season or something.
Yeah.
Yeah, UK. So 6 episodes per season. Let me see if I can bring this up so we can trailer. Ultimate Force, yeah. And to be honest, this is what I was thinking of. I guess in a way, when I was doing the background story to Red Dot,
Right.
and that's my superhero, not my superhero, my vigilante character. I posted about this week on Twitter, and actually, it's actually not. I'll bring it up soon.
You're usually brought in when a situation has to be resolved through the use of violence. In those circumstances, we are aggressive and robust.
He's brave.
Very cool on the fire.
He's mean.
Go to hell. I have a room already reserved.
He's irresistible.
It's as if I've known you for years.
In the battle for ratings, Hino and his team have become the UK's biggest ever prime time action series. Now they've muscled into a worldwide audience of millions.
How on earth did you get here?
Cracking good travel agent, man.
It's an international hit.
Looks like it's going to be a big one.
Thanks very much.
They'll use brains. They'll use beauty.
There's one line of the crack up.
But sometimes
The crack up, they had that actually on YouTube.
Yeah.
takes all force. When your country calls, every man and woman will do their duty.
You heard the man.
It's a prime time, big time, bang time, hit action series.
Love it.
Me too.
Harvey, I think we can do business.
Jolly good. Ultimate force.
Yeah, so I mean, let me bring up my community thing today. I think it was yesterday. When I was talking about Red Dot. This one, right? So I actually probably, is it on? Might be on my homepage. Let me just check it out, because I had the actual artwork that Francisco did, who's actually working on, the robot who worked on the first issue of Robot Nation, and I'm going to keep on, carrying on as long as he wants to work with me on the series, because his art really suits the work. But where is it? So this is actually a Kiwi artist who did this for us. Let me just get to the right friggin' page. This one here. So this is Andrew. Let me go back to find the right post. Yeah, Andrew Harris. He was doing a uni art course thing, and so he just said, "Hey, look, could I, use you as for the project? Your comic character, because he's into comics hard out. He's a collector and a reader, big fan." And so I said, "Yeah, sure." And so basically, he's a captain of an SAS troop, Kiwi SAS troop, and I did really study like a lot of stuff for this. It wasn't just like, I'm gonna write this and this is how it works.
Yeah.
I've actually got books on the army and weaponry and shit. I can make it TV. But like when we did this first, this is from Twitter, and I just posted it because I want when Shane actually based him off Henry Rollins, right? Misfits? Is it Misfits? No, Black Flag.
Black Flag, there you go.
Yeah. So you can see it, but it doesn't look like him, right? Unless you know it's him,
No.
And so it does, and that's the thing about it, like you're using references, but you're not copying it, right? You're not tracing it. The thing is just so cool that we're able to do this. So
that's what reference is all about, I can't remember who I saw say it, but it was some conversation about using reference and what have you, and it's like, as long as it's transformative, as long as you and it's it's sort of composites well with the rest of the artwork. It's like,
Yeah.
do whatever you want, man. Maybe not AI. AI is kind of
or
not
tracing,
good, but
like,
you know what I mean. But even tracing, we were talking about using a light box. The trouble is like when you are using a light box and people go, oh, this was traced. You know what I mean? But I mean, I use, I think the conversation was about 3D models, right? But I'll use like real low poly 3D models to like map out a composition, where characters are sort of sitting in a scene to sort of get a sense of perspective. It's like, that's reference, man. Like, the old masters weren't using Blender, but they were using other things. They were, they were sketching and getting life models and things like that. So
exactly.
Hey, this is dope. Damn,
this
is slick.
Yeah. So this is Francisco, when he first came to work with us, right? Like, we're like, I was like, hey, I want to get Red Dot out because it's, Shane's, me and Shane worked on it. It's one of the first, like, apart from Incredi-Girl, it was the next character we created. Because like Nano's part of Incredi-Girl, so that's fine. But like for Red Dot, next title was the next one I created as the actual, part of the vigilante world. And we were using this to, like, when I wrote the first 5 pages of this, which I'll put up here so we can actually see it, because you can see the artwork. We did it to teach a class, and this is like, we're like just teaching out of my shop, right? Comic shop, teaching kids, well, not kids actually, whoever was willing to learn. There's about 5 people, for free, really. Just bring, come in and let's do it. Now, where is it there? Red Dot. I'm going to move into 2005. I think I'm moving to 2005. Hold on. All right. Oh, there you are. They're expensive, and I think I have the short here, which Shane did. Here we go.
Slick, man.
2 done wrong. And so, I'm basically, I just decided to put 2 years ahead, right? And by the time I was hoping that I would have somebody come and work. And I found someone who can come and do this. But it'll just take a bit of time working with that person to figure out how we do this, that makes sense. Because I've got so much reference photos as part of everything that's going to happen there with these people, with this story, I should say. Where are you? And what was it called? Oh, here we go. So this is art by Shane for the first 5 pages we wrote as a tutorial thing to get, people into, getting into comics. Like, this is 2015. So you got, it's in Auckland. Then so when I wrote it, I think I still have him based in Auckland or something, but he's moved to Auckland. So this is the opening page. Then you've got this, and there's stuff on here. It's on the actual, the one that I did the PDF on. So you got all the stuff that comes in here text-wise. This is, Shane, and so like this is in the past, and now now he's taking his mask off so you can see how he's bloodied up. And you can see Shane brown, right? You can see the change of tone compared to that.
Yeah.
And so those it's in the past. Exterior, Yeah. So that was it. Just 5 pages, and we kind of like did it as a free comic as part of an event that was on here at that time.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can find the actual. I've got so many folders, and like I haven't, apart from this week, I haven't opened this in a year. Just for this whole thing. Now, there we go. So
I think I might have to dip after this sort of chapter.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing because I got to like.
We're almost at 6 hours, man.
Yeah, yeah, I was thinking like when you decide, then I'll go, because like that was my thing. It was like because I got like a midday, oh no, 2 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. We've got an event, like a toy thing.
Okay, geez, yeah, and you've been awake for ages, right? So you need to get some sleep.
Yeah, which means I'm gonna have a good sleep because Okay, so it's that.
Oh, that's cool, man. It was good. Good. I did want to have a chat at some point about sort of the. I don't know if this was sort of the best time to talk about, but the format of the show.
Yeah,
just
man.
sort of. I think we need to. No, I don't want to plan the show out like to a T, where like it's like you ask this question, now ask this question, you do that. I don't want that. But I think we need to have one sort of just an overlying structure of how we're going to structure the episodes.
Yeah.
And two, if we have sort of a guest on, like what sort of basic questions and topics we're going to bring up. You know,
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like I said, I don't want like pages and pages and pages of stuff. It's just like a couple of lines on, hey, you know, this is the theme of the episode. We introduce ourselves. We introduce the guests. We'll start off with, you know, Lynette talking about cosplay. We'll ask her these questions. We'll roll with their answers and sort of, you know, develop things naturally, and you know, what have you. Because I was watching sort of the last episode with the Man Eamon thing, and it's like man, there are a lot of good things here. There's a lot of good points. We're both bringing up a lot of like good individual points, and it's an interesting conversation. But like the back and forth is a little like it takes us a little while to get there. But two, sort of the back and forth is sort of like it's clear that we haven't planned it. You know what I mean?
Well,
so
the thing here is like, so here's the thing: we're not TV, right?
No.
And
I
think,
definitely don't want to script it. No.
Yeah. So I think that what I realized, like over the last few months, was this: that people aren't looking for this for scripted shows. They're not looking for like a well-heeled thing.
No.
So if you watch like panels are like that, right? It's conversational and stuff, and nobody talks, you know, like they're in a fucking TV show that way. But I do like when you look at when I do the one-on-one interviews, it's pretty much all about the guest, you know. And so I kind of like sit back,
right?
And I think usually with this, it's like having like questions. I usually just let the you know, the creatives that come on just follow their thing, decide how they want to do it. I mean, like what they want to talk about, because I think they have more.
Right.
There's much more interesting when they lead the conversation than I do. It's like when you do.
I agree. I agree. I think. I think. I mean, you know, Jason. You know, with Jason, it's a little different because you're sort of knowledgeable about him in Funtime Comics, right? You and me can talk, have we know him to some extent. We know what he's working on. We know that he's got Beyond the Ledge Press, so we can have an hour show about that, right? But if we bring someone on that is we're a little less knowledgeable of, or you know. Like I said, I think you're right. We certainly don't want to script it, and you know, when I hear podcasts or shows that are scripted, you could tell, and it's not a good look. But
no, you're like, they're reading it. They're reading the stuff, right?
There's a real good podcast. I don't think it's going anymore, but it's called Making Comics with I always get him confused. I think his name's Jason Brubaker.
All right.
I always can get him confused with Ed Brubaker, the guy that makes like Criminal and things like that.
See, look at that.
Making comics. He's like a real successful indie comic book artist. Jason Brubaker, yeah. So have a look at that. I mean, his like I don't want this because I think like their podcast is not above criticism. I think it is a little sterile, you know. But you can tell that the episode sort of has a structure. It's like we introduce ourselves,
We talk about our weeks, and then we've got this topic that we're going to discuss. You know what I mean?
Right.
And here's the points that we want to bring up. You know, because sometimes what happens is like I don't know what you want to talk about, and then you kind of go, "Hey, talk about this," and I'm like, I don't know anything about that, man. Like, I don't know. And I'm like, yeah.
What were we supposed to talk about tonight anyway? Like, I remember, like, we said we were going to talk about something, or I said we were going to talk about something, and then, like,
I think with Martin Eamon, I researched some points that I was going to talk about, and I knew you would have sort of a bunch of arrows in your quiver that you could talk about. But like, if you were like, hey, let's talk about this pink thing, I was like, oh dang, I really don't know that much about it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I don't know, man. I don't know. Like you're right. I don't want to script it. I don't think that's a good direction for the show. But just like some sort of overlying structure, you know what I mean? How did you feel? Here's a question, and this is no disrespect to our guests. Lynette was really interesting. Jason Lenny was interesting. How did you feel about having two guests at the same time?
Like I think it's pretty cool, because I think the other thing you got to understand, I like about it, is that they also question each other as well. I love panels. I love panels for the panel's sake, because I already do like a one-on-one, and then I also do a like a back and forth as well. So I want this to be like as many people as possible. 6 people, yeah, cool. However, there does come to a point where it's like there could be over talking each other. So I think 4 is good, right? 4 kind of works in, because that's why I turn my I mute myself, because that way you guys know that you guys got to talk, right? Because I'm not talking, and that way it allows the conversation between the 3 of you and back and forth between Lynette or Jason. I like to keep. I was hoping that we can have Lynette on more often, because it'd be fun.
I'd be keen. I would really, because here was the thing. The reason I asked, like I said, I thought Lynette was really interesting. I wish I knew more about her going in, because I would have sort of gone, look, you're into cosplay. I want to know all about your cosplay. How do you make it? How does it work? What's the materials? I don't know anything about it, so I'm a complete layman. Educate me. You know what I mean?
So tonight's thing was just about her event. Like, she had gone to Queenstown. That was it.
Right. Well, even that. But I think that I think having a panel, like you described, like 6 people on like a panel type show, I think works really, really well. I don't think it works when you're interviewing 2 people at once about 2 very separate topics. Because what happened was Lynette, like we interviewed Lynette, and then Jason came on. Like I said, I'm not disparaging. Both the guests were fantastic. Both loved having them on. I'm not disparaging. But what happened was Jason got on. We started talking about Funtime Comics, and Lynette said one thing, because she was that wasn't her bag,
Sure. But the thing was that it's like she was. Everybody can come on and be as long as they want. They're not supposed, they're not like forced to stay on as long as, that's why they said, like, I got to go. Cool. Because the other thing you got to understand is this is about networking and getting to know each other as well. And so Jason has never really met Lynette. And so she's from here. But what happens if Lynette goes to Christchurch, right? And there's an event on Christchurch, and Lynette goes, hey, do you know anybody down there? Right? Can somebody publicize this before, because we're going to have an event down there? Oh, I met Jason, right? And now you're connecting people. So that's what I've said before, like, on the chat. This is about networking. This is about letting artists in New Zealand know who's out there doing what.
That's fair.
Letting the world know what we're doing. And as we do this, you're going to find that a lot of people will gravitate towards each other and be able to find, like, help from each other, because that's the whole point of this, is to build network, is to show people that not only one person is out here doing shit. There's lots of people out here doing stuff.
That's true.
I mean, like you said, like I think after, I'm not sure what the situation was with but you saw Jason setting up, his his podcast setup, so he could talk to his team now, right? Somebody that did years ago, but now he's thinking like, now I'm going to do it. That's because he's watching everybody else do it now, and saying that it's not that hard to do it. It's just time.
And here's the thing. I mean, this is what I'm discovering as an artist too. Like, whether it be Instagram, whether it be Twitter or X or Facebook, those YouTube certainly, but all those algorithms are optimized for video content. So it's like, okay, well, if you're a comic book artist and your main output is still images, what do you do? And those don't get favored in the algorithm. What do you then do? What are you making motion comics now? Are you doing commentary content? Like, what do you do? Like, that's something that you have to do if you are a new artist wanting to come up. When I put out the call, like for the first episode, what's this guy's name? My mind is like snapped. It's like 1:30 in the morning. It's done. But is it Justin? It's not Justin Young. It's Gunface guy.
Ryan Green.
No, not Ryan Green. Hang on, I'll find out for you. Gunface comic. I think it's like, is it Paul?
Yeah. So while you're doing that, it could be Paul Young, wasn't it? So one of the things that I do in between, every other day is I put up like a 1-minute video, right, which gets more views than any of the things I do, like long form, right? So making kebab, right? Making ice cream and shit is doing more for 1 minute. The algorithms like goes for short videos. So like you get something like no videos, and then suddenly you've got like this, and it goes up to no 2 views, and then you got that, and so it's crazy. You get 35 for finally made ice cream, right? But 146, right, for this
gardening content. This just in, Plungecast is now a gardening show. We're gonna get our green thumbs on.
What I do outside of this podcast.
Well, that's interesting that these are YouTube shorts, right? But he on that announcement, when I sort of said, "Hey, what's everyone doing?" He said, "Oh, I'm releasing my comic on TikTok." I was initially like, "How is that going to work?" But I would be really, really interested to see how that works, because we talk about how to get young people involved in comic books. It's like, well, that sort of content might be kind of the gateway. I mean, I know this is another like massive subject to bring up like so late in the game, but the mainstream comic industry has a massive problem marketing itself. It's like, when have you seen an ad for a comic that's coming out? Any comic, that's not in a comic book store, in a gaming magazine or something. Like, when have you seen like in a newspaper or on a billboard that Ultimate Spider-Man's coming out? It's like, it just doesn't happen.
At the moment, it's all in-house. They're using the normal ways they've always used. They're not changing. And the problem is they're not changing, right? They had 10 years of movies to make it work for them by advertising the comics.
That's right. Yeah.
And they didn't. They're not changing. So the deal here is like, as we finish off, is that if you don't change, if you stay rigid, you get beaten by the competition. And they did, and they are. Right now, they're trying to join it. Like I said earlier, with the Ultimate X-Men 1 being a manga instead of like being a superhero comic. So as long as they don't change, well,
like, did you like? Were you
right? It's really good for us indies that they don't change, right?
Right.
If they don't change, it's really good for us because it means that we can fill that gap that they're leaving, as well as, even though, what you've got, even though that gap is being filled majorly by manga, it also offers opportunity to us to draw people away. I mean, not draw people away, but give people what they want out here, which is
Right.
good stories about relationships, about heroes behaving like heroes, man behaving like men, woman behaving like women, children behaving like children, and adults behaving like adults, and grandparents behaving like grandparents, right? And nobody.
Just on the movie note, do you remember when I'm trying to do the math with did you remember when the first Pokemon movie came out? Were you ever into Pokemon, or did you sort of miss that boat? Nah, yeah, fair enough.
But I did go see Detective Pokemon, and I loved it.
Okay, yeah, gotcha. Right. So the first Pokemon movie came out, to help get kids into their card game. You got like a promo card, right? Mm-hmm. Like, how did Marvel not just give out like free, you have free comic book day, you buy a ticket to a movie, okay, well you get this comic. Like,
nobody would have bet on an eyelid if you made it 50 cents more at the ticket.
Exactly.
Right?
Well, exactly. I mean,
like I said, they're too rigid. They've been used to the old ways, and everybody who's under the old ways, they go the way of the dodo. Right.
I could understand if you're with your margins, if you're making movies that are making like $10, the budget's $100, you're making $120. You're making movies that are $2 billion.
Yeah, but
anyways, maybe you're right, man. Maybe I'm hoping that the Titanic is going to stay afloat. Maybe I'm that guy,
right?
And the lifeboat going. I think it's going to make it. I think it's going to stay afloat, and then it snaps in half. And I'm going, maybe it's still got life in it.
That's why we're doing things differently. With indie comics, we're doing things differently. We're going direct to customer. We're talking to the people. We're telling them what we're doing, when are we doing it, when to expect it, how it's going to get there, when it's getting there, who's doing what, how are they doing it, who you're doing, who we're doing it with, because we're being straight up, right? And I think that's what the comics don't do anymore. And they just want to rip into you, tell you you're the bad person, that our comics is the best in the world, when we know that's not. And because we can go to the indies and we can go to manga. So, yeah. I think, man, I didn't realize we're going to be talking for 4 hours.
Yeah, man. Dude, was the after party was wild.
We had Justin on. We had, Lynette on, and we also had Jason on. And
great.
Both people I've interviewed before. Yeah, both people I've interviewed before. So actually, all three I've interviewed before. But so that's why this is like more networking and getting to know each other and stuff, because I know a lot of people don't know each other apart from like seeing their name across on the Facebook. But when you get them sitting down like this, it's much better environment. It's almost like a get together, and which is what I like about that sort of looseness about this, is a get together. So I can have fun with them. I can tell jokes. They can tell me jokes. We can laugh at each other, and we can have a fun time. And hopefully people that watch also see the fun time that we're having, because, it's just a casual get together really to, promote each other's work. Not only that, but actually just hang out on a Friday night, right? And that's it.
Yeah.
Hopefully, when you come up with a topic, you come up with a topic and we'll go with that. And then if I come up with a topic, we'll go with that. That's why I open the chat up, right? So that we can actually see what people are into, what they're going, and then the messenger, hey, I'm doing this. Like, tell us what the fuck you're doing, so we know that we can come on and talk about it.
That makes sense, man. So as we sort of wrap up the episode, do you know what we're going to do next week? What do you think?
I have no idea, but I'm sure we'll find out this week what's coming up.
Figure it out, man. You know what? Now that I think about it, I might not be able to make next week. I'll be in Rotorua. I'll be in Roto Vegas.
Nice. I haven't been there for ages.
Yeah,
I actually hitchhiked through Roto Vegas, and then I went there years ago. All right,
beautiful in the summer.
All right, awesome, man. Thank you for your time, dude. 6 hours, dude.
No worries, man. My pleasure. My pleasure.
Cheers. Goodbye,
Catch you
everybody, wherever you are. Be well. Have a good weekend. Catch us tomorrow. We've got a toy show, but also on Sunday we've got a one-on-one interview with Max DeVille, who does mature comics, like sexy girls, mature comics.
Ooh.
Like really, really sexy girls, mature comics, mature comics. But yeah, so that's the two things for coming up. And catch us next week, and we'll see what's going on next week. Remember to like and subscribe, especially subscribe and hit that notify button, because then you know which one's coming up. Because we've got a lot of things planned over the next few weeks. But yeah, that's only we're going to figure out if it's on or not if you hit the notify button and subscribe. So share it out, all the little clips and all that, because we need more subs. Thank you. Thanks, Rex.
Cheers, man.
Catch you, bud.
Take care.
Have a good one. Bye, everyone.